Our story kicks off with a big question. What really defines the essence of a human being, and what gives it value? Outside the garden, we find young Deor having the time of his life with his mom. He crafted a flower crown, and when she lets him place it on her head, his joy just skyrockets. It's a simple, tender moment, but then things shift. Enter his father, who also happens to be the king of this continent. Deor, being the cheerful kid he is, starts rambling about how his mom teaches him little things here and there. But the king not here for play. He cuts straight to the point, asking his son if he wants to be king one day. Deor hesitates, turns to his mother for reassurance, and when she smiles, he blurts out yes. The king doesn't stop there. He presses harder. If you want to rule this land, what do you need? Deor answers with the innocence of a child, knowledge. But the king raises the stakes with a brutal scenario. Imagine two cliffs collapsing. On one side, your family and friends. On the other, the people of the kingdom. You can only save one. Which do you choose? Like, seriously? He's just a kid. How do you expect him to solve a dilemma like that? Of course, Deor has no answer. The king explodes in anger, declaring that a true king must have resolve. Fast forward 10 years. That same boy is now a young knight, training hard with his sword. But trouble seems to follow him everywhere. A group of bullies shows up, mocking him. Deor's biggest flaw is that he can't use magius, and to make matters worse, he's got commoner's blood from his mother's side. Instead of backing down, Deor challenges one of them. He charges in without hesitation, catching his opponent off guard. And he throws the mockery right back. No one waits for anyone in real combat. Guess your wet nurse forgot to mention that. That burns. The bully, furious, vows not to hold back just because Deor's a prince. But then he crosses the line, mocking Deor's mother. That's it. Deor snaps, forces him to the ground with ease, and the fight is done. Scoreboard says, Deor 1, bully 0. The bully couldn't handle losing. The moment Deor lowered his guard, the guy tried a cheap shot from behind. But Deor, he was ready. He blocked it clean. Then things got wild. The bully pulled out magius and fired off a spell, Luxafixa. Deor barely dodged it, like at the very last second. You could almost feel the heat of that blast. Just as the fight was about to spiral out of control, Princess Solaris stepped in. She dismissed the bullies right away, shutting the whole thing down. Solaris is the king's daughter, but from another mother. Keep that in mind, because King Vincent has kids from multiple mothers, and that detail matters later. Solaris rushed over, worried about Deor. But he wasn't having it. He answered her coldly. He didn't want pity. She told him the king had summoned all his children to appear before him. When she noticed the scratch on Deor's face, she feared his mother Camille would be upset. Deor brushed her hand away, assuring her he'd be fine and insisting she leave. After finishing his training, Deor walked through the hallway. The nobles were waiting, and they didn't hold back. Loud voices mocked him. What's a commoner's child doing here? They insulted him and his mother, laughing like it was entertainment. Deor was furious. He wanted to tear them apart right then and there. But instead, he swore to himself, one day, he'd make them regret every word. Finally, all of King Vincent of Angale's children gathered. They bowed to show respect to their father, or rather, their king. Vincent stood tall and made his announcement. It didn't matter if you were a soldier, an aristocrat, or royalty. Any one of his kin had the chance, the honor, to claim the crown. The king didn't just make that announcement. He had already arranged for the crown itself to be present. He didn't care about someone's origin or bloodline. If the crown deemed you worthy, you could take the honor and rule the land of Evangale. But remember, the crown only chooses those who truly deserve it. Of course, not everyone was thrilled about this. One of the noble guards scoffed, finding it ridiculous that anyone could claim the crown. Let's be real, they were throwing shade at Deor, the half-blood prince with commoner roots. Now let's shift back to the hallway. Things were already going downhill. An intruder had slipped in, killed one of the guards, and was making his way toward the main event. Yosef noticed something was off and went to investigate. What he found was Grim, his comrade, dead. Without hesitation, Yosef launched a Luxafixa spell at the intruder. But the intruder dodged with ease and fired his own Luxafixa back. Yosef blocked it barehanded, proving the intruder's magius was weak. Then the intruder switched tactics, throwing a dagger tied to a rope. Yosef dodged the blade, but didn't notice the rope attached. He tried to retreat to call for backup, but the intruder pressed forward, yanking the dagger straight into Yosef's head. A girl guard rushed in, firing her spell. The intruder ducked behind cover, then pulled his dagger back, forcing her to dodge. That distraction cost her. The intruder unleashed Luxaplodia, a massive explosion that stopped her cold. Meanwhile, Deor could feel the tremors from afar. Something dangerous was coming closer. The intruder then drew his sword. It carried strange engravings, almost like a saying etched into steel. The intruder kept advancing, shouting out the king's name. He lunged, trying to stab Vincent from behind, but the king was no fool. With a swift motion, Vincent activated his ice spell, forming a shield that stopped the blade cold. 2 guards were ready to rush in, but a third stopped them. His reasoning? He couldn't sense the intruder's magius. To him, that meant the attacker was weak, no real threat to the king. Vincent's gaze locked onto the intruder. His eyes were cruel, cold, almost mocking, as if he was laughing inside at the audacity of this weak challenger. The king raised his hand, ready to seize him, but the intruder dashed back, tossing a smoke bomb that filled the room. The guards panicked, thinking it might be a poison gas. But Deor, watching closely, realized the truth. If it were poison, the intruder would have used it the moment he appeared. This was just cover. And then, before Deor could react, the intruder slipped through the smoke, appearing right behind him. In an instant, he grabbed Deor, holding him hostage. The intruder thought he had the upper hand. And get this, he even mocked Deor for not being able to sense his weak magius. Like, bro, you're holding a kid hostage and still talking trash? Then he turned his rage toward the king, shouting that Vincent's people were starving, being slaughtered by demons, and demanding to know why he wasn't saving them. Even with his son's life on the line, Vincent didn't flinch. He didn't care. He just stepped back, cold and detached, as if the threat meant nothing. That arrogance cost the intruder. He loosened his grip, and Deor seized the moment, breaking free. One of the guards immediately fired a Luxafixa spell, halting the intruder's advance. More guards closed in from behind, surrounding him. Deor jumped in, trying to land a kick, but the intruder dodged and lunged straight for the crown. The moment his hand touched it, golden energy burst forth. But then, something darker crept in, a sinister spark of black energy that wrapped around him, engulfing his body. The dark energy pouring out of the crown began consuming the intruder. Princess Solaris cried out, warning him to let go, or the crown would devour him completely. But the intruder quickly realized the horror. He couldn't release it, no matter how hard he tried. In that moment, he saw a demon's manifestation, laughing right in his face. As the crown drained his life away, the intruder screamed at Vincent, cursing him from the depths of hell. And just like that, his body crumbled into nothing but black ashes. The crown fell, striking the ground, but then it vanished, only to reappear exactly where it belonged, untouched. Prince Yuhan, watching all of this unfold, found it fascinating. The king had declared that any of his children could claim the crown. First, Prince Antonio was already proven unfit to rule, which meant the path was open. Everyone had a chance now. Solaris, the adopted daughter, and even Deor Fluenti, the prince born from a commoner's blood who couldn't wield magius. And then, as if the scene wasn't eerie enough, a black crow with glowing red eyes appeared. It circled, searching for Deor, calling him by a name that sent chills down the spine, Deorsum. Galius, once a mighty kingdom, feared and respected across the land. Their strength in magius was unmatched, ruling over nations with sheer dominance. But then came the demon Invidia. Unlike humans, Invidia didn't discriminate, strong or weak. He tore through everything in his path. To stop him, generals from many kingdoms united, gathering thousands of soldiers to face the terror. Yet, in the end, only one man stood victorious, Vincent Evangale. He destroyed Invidia's body, but the demon's soul endured, haunting Vincent's kingdom unseen. Day by day, Invidia grows stronger, consuming anyone unlucky enough to cross his path. Evidence of his soul was spotted near Alis village, far from the kingdom's borders. Normally, you can't defeat what you can't see, but Vincent believes otherwise. That's why he's offering the crown as an incentive, pushing his kin to grow stronger. Meanwhile, Deor faced more ridicule. One family member mocked him, bumbling about how unfit he was to be king since he couldn't even use magius. But then Equali, one of Deor's brothers, stepped in. He defended Deor, reminding everyone how important family is and that they should support each other. Later, Equali laughed with Deor, teasing him that if he kept furrowing his brows all the time, he'd age faster. He made it clear, no matter what others said, he would stand by Deor and support him to be the next king. Just then, Equali's mother, Lady Roma, appeared. Deor greeted her formally, genuinely happy to see her health improving. Roma asked about Deor's mother, having heard rumors she was ill. But the truth? She wasn't sick at all. The nobles spread that lie because they didn't want a commoner woman among them, even though she was one of the king's wives. Deor parted ways with them. But remember that black crow with red eyes? Turns out, it wasn't just a crow. It was a demon, and it was creeping up from behind, ready to devour our boy. Before the demon could sink its fangs into Deor, something strange happened. Even though our boy can't sense magius, he felt something. He turned back, only for the demon to melt into the shadows. As he kept walking, the demon tried again. Same trick. But this time, Deor caught sight of a raven trailing him. Except, that raven wasn't just a bird. It was the demon itself. And then, out of nowhere, someone stepped right out of the wall beside him. A blonde man, Dante. Now, Dante Dante isn't just anyone. He's the only person in Galeas who can detect demons. Without him, those creatures would be roaming freely through the kingdom, unseen. Dante immediately started checking Deor. Deor asked if he sensed a demon nearby. Dante knew the truth. The demon was hiding inside Deor's shadow. But instead of telling him, Dante lied. He claimed he hadn't slept for 5 days and might be hallucinating. Deor wanted to point out the raven that had been following him, but it was already gone. Dante quickly shifted the conversation, bringing up the real reason he was there. He wanted Deor to step down, to give up on becoming king. That hit a nerve. Deor's fury boiled over. He swore he would be the one to claim the crown, no matter what anyone said. Now, you might wonder, why would someone as important as Dante treat Deor this way? The truth is, Dante was tasked by the king himself to watch over Deor, to make sure no harm reached him. From there, the scene shifts. We see Deor's mother, standing in the center of a violet garden. Her beauty is undeniable, even though she's a commoner. When her son arrived, she embraced him warmly, overjoyed to see him safe. 2 days after the king's announcement, the atmosphere around the court shifted completely. Suddenly, everyone was treating Deor with respect. Guards lined the halls, greeting him formally, no mocking, no sneers. Even Alec, the same bully from before, approached him, asking for a favor. Alec wanted to know if Deor would attend the royal banquet that evening, since Lady Fluenti, Deor's mother, would be there. Once Deor confirmed, Alec went further, saying he wanted Deor to meet his sister. She'd never paid much attention to men before, but now she was suddenly interested in meeting him. What can I say? People are disgusting. The moment Deor had a shot at the crown, everyone started acting like he was worthy, even though he still couldn't use magius and carried commoner blood. Later, guards escorted Deor to the training grounds. This time, he wasn't swinging a sword, he was practicing with a bow. He had a problem to solve. Deor realized Luxafix's spells had limited range, so he came up with a clever workaround. He aimed, fired, and shattered a glass target. Then he shouted at the guards to cast Luxafixa on the shattered pieces. When they did, the spell spread across the fragments, destroying every target around. The guards were stunned, praising his intelligence. Meanwhile, Dante was busy briefing his team. He had sensed demons near the kingdom's borders. Ilian's troops would march from the east. Princess Stella and Solaris were stationed in the southwest, and that left Deor's unit to head north. Deor and his guards had one mission: defeat the demon lurking in the area. One of the guards stepped forward, assuring Deor that they'd protect him with everything they had. He even reminded Deor that the king himself had ordered Dante to personally watch over him. As the party advanced, a sinister presence followed, someone radiating demonic power, and it was clear Deor was the target. The guards began talking among themselves about Prince Equali. They criticized him, saying he was too kind, too willing to sacrifice himself for others, and therefore unfit to be king. But Deor saw it differently. To him, Equali's kindness was strength. Almost everyone admired his warmth and charisma, and that kind of nature could inspire people to follow. Meanwhile, we shift to Equali. He was helping farmers grow their crops, using his water magius to nourish the fields. The villagers were grateful, smiling at the aid he provided. But then, a demon appeared, snatching one of the children. The terrified kid tried to fight back with Luxafixa, but his magius was too weak to stand against the creature. Equali rushed in, immobilizing the demon for a few seconds, just enough time for the child to escape. He then ordered the farmers to cast their Luxafixa spells, merging their light with his water magius. All Equali needed to do was bend the light correctly, amplifying their combined power. But the demon fled quickly, slipping away. Confused, Equali wondered how a demon could even be here. Was there a contractor nearby? Don't worry, we'll get into that later. Back to Deor. Our boy wasn't so lucky. A demon struck him, stabbing deep. But here's the strange part. Even though he was wounded, Deor was smiling. Turns out, the one who got stabbed wasn't Deor at all. It was a demon. The demon quickly realized something. A contractor had been sent to assassinate Deor. The assassin unleashed his spell, blasting the demon's head apart, but it regenerated instantly. The tables turned fast. The demon immobilized the assassin, who desperately called out to the demon he had contracted with for help. But the little demon abandoned him, running away without a second thought. The one who had taken Deor's shape was actually a girl demon named Yuli. The assassin was completely baffled. Normally, once a contract is made, a demon must obey its master. But Yuli wasn't just any demon. She knew how to nullify contracts. Without hesitation, she ended the confusion in the most brutal way possible, by devouring the assassin's head. Meanwhile, back in the royal halls, Deor's uncle was in Vincent's face, furious about the king's announcement. He demanded to know how Vincent could give that thing. thing. Yes, he called Dur a thing, the chance to be king. Keep that insult in mind, because it's going to matter later. Vincent didn't respond with words. Instead, he focused his ice magius. But the strain reopened his old wounds, especially the one tied to his missing eye. And then we shift back to Dur. He was doing more than fine with his unit of guards, holding his ground. But from behind, another assassin crept closer, ready to eliminate him. Before the assassin's spell could strike Dur, a bird swooped in, shielding him. And not just any bird. This was none other than Yuli, our girl demon. The assassin prepared to fire again, but Dur acted fast. He loosed an arrow, hitting her before she could cast. Just in time, Equali arrived, unleashing his water magius to suffocate her, trying to pin her down. But then, from behind, a surge of raw energy ripped through the air, a beam so powerful it wasn't aimed at Dur, but at the castle itself. The blast was devastating. Thankfully, Vincent reacted instantly, raising his ice magius to shield the castle. The strain reopened his old wounds, his missing eye aching as the ice barrier held. And the source of that attack? None other than the great demon himself, Invidia. Now that they had captured the assassin woman, Equali showed his merciful side, even with villains. He asked the guards not to gag her yet, to let her breathe. Deor, however, ordered her taken into custody. Still, even with her captured, Dur felt something was off. His instincts were right. From behind, another assassin appeared, hurling a dagger tied to a rope straight at him. Dur grabbed a guard's sword and redirected the dagger mid-flight. It ended up slashing the captured woman's face. This assassin woman was the same enemy Yuli had fought before, the one she supposedly devoured. So how is she alive? Don't worry, that mystery will unravel later. The assassin above pulled the rope, retrieving the dagger. Dur seized the rope himself, climbing up to confront him. In the end, Dur managed to slam the assassin into the ground, ending the fight. But instead of killing him, Dur showed mercy. That mercy backfired. The assassin unleashed Luxaplodia, a massive explosion erupting right where Dur and the assassin stood. After the explosion, Equali rushed to the scene, climbing up in panic, desperate to check if Dur was still alive. But neither Dur nor the assassin were anywhere to be found. Thankfully, our boy survived. He had only a minor injury on his forehead. The trees around had cushioned both his and the assassin's fall, sparing them from death. Even then, Dur refused to end the assassin's life. The assassin himself was stunned. They were both alive because, during their clash, Dur had managed to throw the assassin's explosives behind them. That explained why the blast erupted at the edge of the building, sending them tumbling down instead of being obliterated. And the kicker, when they were falling, the assassin was headed straight for death. But Dur shielded him, taking the injury on his forehead in the process. The assassin was left completely confused. Why would Dur save the very person sent to kill him? Dur's answer was simple but powerful. He wanted to be a king who protects everyone. Just then, Equali arrived at the scene, relief washing over him. Above, perched in the trees, Yuli revealed herself once more. She shifted into her bird form, fluttered down, and landed gracefully on Dur's shoulder, a silent but loyal presence at his side. The party knew they had to head back quickly to report everything to His Majesty. Deor, showing even more kindness, extended his hand to help the assassin walk. Mercy, even for someone who tried to kill him. Later that evening, the nobles gathered for a banquet. Lady Fluenti, Dur's mother, was present, and despite being a commoner, even the nobles admired her beauty. Dur sat quietly, Yuli perched in bird form on his head, while he pondered the day's events. 2 assassins sent after him, both commoners, both unskilled. Something about it didn't add up. Alec approached, introducing his sister to Dur. Meanwhile, Equali stayed silent, his expression heavy, as if he knew something deeper. Princess Solaris noticed, and asked if he was all right. Johann joined in, pointing out that Equali's face clearly showed something was going on. Then Johann's attention shifted. He looked toward Lady Fluenti. As she raised her cup and drank, she suddenly collapsed to the ground. The hall froze. She had been poisoned. Instead of panicking, Dur stayed calm. He knew exactly how to handle the situation. He rushed to Equali, telling him, "My mother can still be saved." Lady Fluenti was still breathing steadily, so Deor instructed Equali to use his water magius to extract the poison. But he warned him, avoid the front passage, the windpipe used for breathing. There's another passage toward the back. Following Deor's guidance, Equali carefully drew the poison out through her mouth. The nobles around wouldn't stop whispering, their voices buzzing like flies. Dur had enough. He demanded silence, reminding them that attempting to murder a member of the royal family was treason against King Evangale himself. Since the poison wasn't fatal, Dur cleverly deduced it eliminated a wide range of toxins. That meant investigators could narrow down the source in the trade market. His quick thinking made the culprit nervous, and nervous people make mistakes. Sure enough, 2 nobles slipped away from the banquet, exposing themselves. But the twist, those 2 weren't the masterminds. Above them stood the real boss, Johann. Behind him were his Uncle Fry and Sir Mycrawl. Fry apologized, admitting the plan had failed. Fry and Mycrawl then turned on each other, arguing and blaming one another for the disaster. Johann, cold and ruthless, silenced the chaos. He used his elector magius to kill one of the nobles who had overheard their plotting. Once Fry and Mycrawl left, Johann reflected on what had happened. He was impressed by Deor's reaction, calm, decisive, even though his mother had nearly died before his eyes. Back with Deor, Solaris noticed the intensity in his eyes, worry mixed with anger. Equali reassured him, saying Lady Fluenti would stay in the clinic for a few days under guard protection. As for Solaris, she was tasked with guarding Deor's mother personally, since she was the second strongest light magius in the kingdom. Solaris then asked Deor about the bird perched on him. He explained that he found it near the Sand River, and since it refused to leave him, he decided to keep it. What he didn't say outright was the real reason. This bird had saved him during battle, and Deor was fully aware of that. Still, he had no idea the bird was actually the demon girl Yuli. Equali excused himself, but not without carrying a heavy truth. He knew exactly who was behind the poisoning, his own brother Johann. Meanwhile, Johann hadn't moved from his vantage point. Watching the guards below, his mind drifted back to childhood. He had always seen people as ants, born into noble blood and convinced of his superiority. His archery skills were sharp, but so were those of the other royal children. One day their father, King Vincent, came to watch them practice. Johann, desperate for attention, managed to hit a moving target, a bird mid-flight. But the king barely reacted. His duty was to protect the kingdom, not to praise his son's cruelty. From behind, Equali had witnessed Johann's disappointment, the cold sting of being ignored. Back in the present, Equali stepped forward, ready to confront his brother. Equali didn't waste time. He went straight to the point, demanding Johann explain why he poisoned Lady Fluenti. Johann, of course, lied, denying everything. But then he twisted the knife. He reminded Equali of the past, when he had once suggested poisoning Lady Fluenti. See that? Don't let Equali's kindness fool you. He wasn't always the merciful brother we know now. But that was long ago. Equali had changed, or so everyone thought. This time, Equali came prepared. He produced a letter, proof that Johann had ordered Uncle Fry to poison Lady Fluenti. If that letter reached the king, Johann's fate would be sealed. Just then, a demon struck from behind, stabbing Equali. The truth was laid bare. Johann was working with demons. Even wounded, Equali kept up his kind facade, telling Johann he was only lonesome, that he didn't need to go this far. But Johann had already crossed the line. He was ready to kill all his brothers to seize the throne, even if it meant cooperating with demons. The guards below saw the demon and attacked, but their light magius spells were useless. The creature was too strong. Johann, confident, thought everything was going according to plan. He even confessed he was the one who ordered Deor Fluenti's assassination. That was the breaking point. Equali's demeanor shifted completely. And then came the shocking reveal. Equali unleashed demonic power himself, stabbing Johann and seizing him. Behold, the true face of Equali. Johann tried to break free, unleashing his electro spell, but Equali was far too skilled to let him move. From the shadows, Equali shifted into his water magius, binding Johann tighter, giving him no chance to escape. Even the demon contracted to Johann trembled in fear and attempted to flee, but Equali seized it before it could vanish. Johann, desperate, demanded to know why his brother was so protective of Deor. Equali answered by stripping Johann of his elector crystal with his water spell. His words were scattered, cryptic, but one thing was clear. He believed the path to the crown lay elsewhere. Wrapping Johann in his water magius, Equali declared that Deor was the sword that could seize the throne. And then, in a shocking act, Equali killed his own brother. Johann's body dissolved, turning into bubbles of water. Things were only getting more intense. The guards fired a signal flare into the sky, declaring that a demon was inside the castle. Once Deor saw the signal flare, he left Solaris behind to guard his mother and rushed toward the danger. He wanted to find Dante, fearing his ally might have been ambushed. Yuli, shifting from bird into crow form, followed close behind. Suddenly, she swooped down, smacking Deor into an empty spot where no guard could see them. There, she spoke in her true demon voice, freezing Deor in shock. Then she shifted again, this time into a cat. But Yuli wasn't impressed. Deor wasn't as shaken as she expected. Makes sense though. From the beginning, Deor suspected the bird was something more, especially after it had saved him in battle. Yuli explained the truth. Even though she was a demon, she was an ally sent by the king himself to help. Deor hesitated, unsure if he could trust her. But she added that Dante was aware of her presence too. That explained why Dante had ignored the demon shadowing Deor in the beginning. It was Yuli all along. Yuli then led Deor to Dante. They found him battered, injured all over from fighting a contractor who wielded a powerful demon. A guard rushed in to report the ongoing chaos, but the contractor struck, aiming at the guard. Dante lunged to protect the guard, but the attack shifted, hitting the guard anyway. Dante took another blow, collapsing under the strain. The contractor was none other than the same assassin woman who had targeted Deor before. How was she free after being captured? Simple. Johan had hired her, and it was easy for him to release her. Before she could finish Dante off, Deor came in clutch, saving him at the last moment. Deor held his ground. Since the assassin woman had lowered her sword, all he needed to do was keep her from uttering a spell. Dante warned him she had a demon nearby, so he had to be careful. Suddenly, she unleashed demonic power, striking back and hurling Deor away. She tried to flee, but Deor stopped her cold, smacking her head to keep her down. That's when he realized this was the same woman who had tried to assassinate him earlier that morning. How had she escaped custody? If she was free, then the other assassin must have escaped too. And Deor was right. The male assassin was hiding in the courtyard, watching. He couldn't bring himself to fight back. Mercy had shaken him. Deor's words about wanting to be a king who protects everyone had left a mark. But Deor couldn't sense the demon creeping up behind him. The man shouted, warning him to watch out. Just as the demon struck, Deor barely dodged in time. From the cracks in the ground, spikes of demonic energy erupted. And the assassin woman, who had collapsed moments ago, suddenly awoke once more. The assassin woman began gathering more and more demonic energy, determined to end the fight once and for all. Dante struck from behind, trying to weaken her even slightly, but she countered with brutal force, landing a direct hit that sent Dante crashing through the wall. Carmen, the male assassin, rushed to Dante's side, lending aid. The woman was furious. They were supposed to kill Deor and Dante, yet Carmen was helping them. Carmen argued back, saying Prince Fluenti could help them, that they didn't need to keep killing. But the woman was under the demon's influence, blind to reason, unable to tell right from wrong. Deor saw the demon hovering around her head and lunged forward. But before he could strike, she countered, forcing him onto the defensive. As Deor struggled against the demon's relentless attacks, the woman retrieved her sword. Their blades clashed, but the demon's interference made the fight unbearable. Then Deor noticed something. Dodging her attacks wasn't difficult. The demon's movements were perfectly synced with her steps. That gave him a clue. But the challenge was brutal. He had to hold out for 5 hours until the guards arrived. Carmen doubted Deor could last that long. Yuli, watching from above, realized it wasn't a good plan either. So she decided to intervene, or rather, make things worse. She leapt forward, retrieving her shadow piece, pretending to help Deor. The woman's attention shifted to Yuli. Deor dashed forward, exactly as Yuli wanted. The assassin woman unleashed a light magius attack at Yuli. Yuli dodged, but the spell passed through and struck Deor directly. And just like that, our main character began to fade away. Deor was dead, or so we thought. The assassin woman sneered, trash-talking as if she had already won. She thought she had finally taken revenge on the aristocrats who wronged the villagers. But she was wrong. Even with half his body gone, Deor was still alive. A red, dark energy began to swirl around him, the miasma of a demon. Yes, you guessed it. The truth was revealed. Deor himself was a demon. Before the woman could unleash another light spell, Yuli stepped in and devoured her. But she didn't stop there. Her next target was Deor. She consumed him too, his fading half disappearing into her shadow. It seemed over. Deor's body was vanishing, his existence slipping away. But then Yuli appeared behind him, embracing what remained of him. She whispered, reminding him of his own words. Don't panic. Calm down. Focus. Control your emotions. Deor steadied himself. He accepted the truth. He was a demon. And with that realization, he turned his power against the little demon that had contracted with the assassin woman, devouring it completely. Carmen saw it all. Deor stood there, half a body, radiating terrifying energy. As Deor approached him, Carmen nearly lost control, trembling in fear. Deor nearly lost himself to his demonic side, ready to devour Carmen. But at the last moment, he stopped, pulling back before crossing that line. Just then, the other guards arrived. Carmen, clutching Sasha's lifeless body, fled in panic. Yuli appeared behind Deor, mocking him for losing control of himself. Then she revealed her true form, not just a demon, but a maid working inside the castle. Before the guards could spot them, Yuli absorbed Deor into herself and shifted back into bird form, flying away unseen. Meanwhile, Carmen was unraveling. Running forward with Sasha's body, he couldn't believe what he had witnessed. Prince Deor was a demon. That's when Fry appeared. He was the one commanding Carmen and Sasha, and he was furious at Carmen's reckless behavior, fearing exposure. Fry demanded to know what had happened to Johan. Equali then entered the scene, calming his uncle. But Fry noticed something strange. He hadn't sensed Equali's approach at all. And since we already saw Equali use demonic power earlier, the truth was clear. clear. Iquali himself was a demon. Iquali immediately shifted the topic, claiming Johann had confessed everything. Johann had hired assassins to eliminate Deor, while Fry and Lord Mycrawl had attempted to poison Lady Fluenti. Iquali added that Johann did all this because he discovered Deor was a demon. Carmen, still shaken, confirmed what he saw. Deor was indeed a demon. But demons were supposed to be shapeless monsters that devoured humans and animals. If that was true, then what did it mean for the two standing before him now? Carmen's mind spiraled. Iquali was definitely one of them. Carmen begged for his life when Iquali's eyes locked onto him, swearing he would never speak a word. Fry, meanwhile, had pieced things together. Now it all made sense. Deor was a demon. That explained why he had been kept inside the palace, shielded from the harsh light outside and the Luxafix's spells near the borders. Iquali played it cool. Somehow, he wielded both light and demonic power. To prove himself, he demonstrated his light magius to Carmen. The warmth eased Carmen's fear. To be certain, Carmen cast Luxafixa directly on Iquali's arm, and it did no harm. Relieved, Carmen believed Iquali wasn't a demon. Fry, seeing Sasha's limp body beside Carmen, ordered Iquali to discard her. But Carmen begged for mercy, insisting she was still alive, even though her body showed no reaction. The sad truth of contractors was revealed. Once their souls were devoured by demons, they ceased to be human, reduced to nothing more than breathing lumps of flesh. Fry wanted every trace of conspiracy erased. Iquali assured him he would handle it. When Fry asked about Johann's whereabouts, Iquali feigned sorrow, claiming Johann had been killed at the stone towers by a demon. Fry couldn't believe it. Johann was too powerful. Only Iquali rivaled him. The idea that Iquali had killed his own brother seemed impossible. Little did Fry know, Iquali was a demon himself. Then a chilling aura swept the air. No, a freezing aura. The king had arrived. Vincent approached, sensing something. He focused, spotting a demon battling guards nearby. With a single strike of his ice magius, Vincent obliterated the creature. Turning to his son, Vincent demanded answers about Deor and Johann. Iquali claimed he didn't know Deor's whereabouts, but Johann had been killed and his body devoured by a demon. The guards dragged Carmen into the dungeons, while Sasha was to be thrown into the Deadlands. But Iquali insisted he would take care of her. In private, Iquali revealed his true face. He told Sasha that the soldiers would have buried her alive or tossed her into the dungeons to starve. Instead, he surrounded her with his water magius, dissolving her instantly, just as he had done to Johann. At least her death was painless. Meanwhile, the guards searched desperately for Deor. Yuli carried him into an empty spot and spat him out. Deor remained in that terrifying state, half a body, half missing, yet still alive. Yuli finally revealed her true form to Deor. But Deor wasn't listening to her words at first. He was staring at the state of his own body, half missing, half alive. Yuli was impressed when, instead of panicking, Deor calmly asked her where his father was. That calmness marked a turning point. Deor finally accepted the truth. He was a demon. It explained why he had been locked away in the castle all those years, shielded from the outside world. And then he thought deeper. Earlier, he had devoured a lesser demon, which meant one thing: some demons could consume other demons. If that was true, then Deor had the potential to devour even the most powerful of them all, Invidia. Turns out Vincent had been playing a long game. By turning one of his children into a demon, he had created a weapon capable of destroying their greatest enemy. But chaos would erupt if the upper echelon, or the commoners, discovered that one of the king's children was a demon. Yuli then introduced herself properly. She was no ordinary demon. She was an ancient one, befriended by the king himself to protect Deor. And now, she pledged herself to him. No contracts, no conditions. She would serve Deor forever, obeying his commands as his demon maiden. Deor asked her if his body would grow back. With a mischievous smile, Yuli said, "No," then she burst out laughing, trolling him. In truth, his body would regenerate with time and concentration. Finally, Yuli pressed him with a question. Deor believed he was a demon, yet he also thought of himself as human. She told him he had to choose just one. "What are you, Deorsum?" she asked, calling him by the name she had given him. Deor brushed Yuli's hand away from his face, cutting through her philosophical riddles. He declared firmly, "I am Prince Deor Fluenti, son of Evangale. Whether human or demon doesn't matter to me." His identity was his own, not bound by labels. He even added, since Yuli was his loyal servant, she should help restore his body. And so Yuli merged with him, reconstructing his missing half. Just then, a guard discovered Deor and informed him that the king wished to see him. Several days passed after the chaos within Galius. With the death of Prince Johann de Roma, the upper echelon assembled for his funeral, palace soldiers investigating the cause of death, still officially deemed a mystery. Lord Dante, now fully recovered, joined the soldiers in probing the events that had shaken the castle. castle. 12 days after Johan's funeral, whispers filled the palace. The maidens spoke of Deor being locked away in his chamber for 12 days straight. They had strict orders not to enter, save for one maiden, Yuli. When asked if the prince was all right, Yuli assured them he was fine. Then she approached his chamber herself with a knowing smile, asking if he had fully recovered. Yuli teased Deor when he didn't answer her right away, asking if he had suddenly become shy. When he finally told her to come in, she found him cloaked in his demonic miasma. She informed him that the king had been gathering dossiers on all the recent events. Seeing him in that form, she couldn't resist mocking him further, joking that maybe his 12 days of training had ended in failure. But Deor proved her wrong. He began reconstructing his body, showing that his training had not been wasted. He was annoyed at her constant Deorsome nickname, but he had finally learned to harness his power effectively. Self-preservation was now easier in a world filled with magius users. Still, he knew that powerful light magius could expose his true identity and weaken him. Deor asked Yuli who had discovered his secret. She answered plainly. His father, Dante, and his uncles knew. Johann had known too, but he was already dead. And of course, Sequali was aware. Deor then asked about Carmen, learning that he was safe in the dungeons, though left catatonic after torture to extract information. Yuli shifted forms again, trailing him as he stepped out of his chamber. Solaris was waiting, checking up on him. Deor spoke coldly to his sister, then continued on his way to visit his father. Yuli chose a dog form to follow him, but Deor couldn't help remarking that her crow form was far more adorable than this little pup. Before meeting his father, Deor decided to pay Alec a visit first. Since he had discovered his demon nature, he wanted to test his power, and Alec was the perfect subject. Infusing his leg and arm with demonic energy, Deor approached. Yet Alec couldn't sense a thing. Both Deor and Alec took their stances, the duel beginning with Deor leaping high into the sky, so high that even Alec was impressed. No human could possibly jump like that. Deor clashed with Alec Midair, channeling force through his leg into his sword. Then, infusing his hand with demonic energy, he pushed harder, overwhelming Alec's guard. Alec countered with Luxafixa, but Deor dodged with ease. When Alec fired another Luxafixa, Deor deliberately reached for it. He touched the light spell with his bare hand, dodging the strike as he landed. His arm vaporized instantly from the contact, but within seconds, it regenerated. Deor learned something crucial. It took about 2 seconds for small regenerations to complete. Alec, on the other hand, was left pondering deeply. He had felt something dark radiating from Deor just moments ago. The duel ended, but the echoes of it lingered. Alec had felt something more than darkness radiating from Deor. It was emptiness, unsettling and vast. Nobles gathered around, watching the sparring match unfold. Alec's sword grew heavier in his grip, his movements sluggish. He tried to summon a powerful magius, Ictaluxa, but Deor waved his hand, manipulating the weight of Alec's blade until it dropped to the ground. Alec still managed to unleash his attack, but the heaviness ruined his aim. Deor dodged easily, forcing Alec to abandon his weapon. Then Deor struck with a punch infused with demonic power, sending shockwaves through the courtyard. From this fight, Deor learned more about himself. His miasma wasn't inherently destructive. If controlled, it could enhance his physical strength without corrupting him. Alec's friend urged him to make a decisive move, warning that losing in front of the noble audience would be humiliating. Yuli, watching from the sidelines, admitted she had underestimated Deor. In just days, he had nearly mastered his demonic power. She found it amusing, a double-edged sword, ready to cut down humans or demons alike. She left to report this to the king. Deor checked on Alec afterward, but Alec, humiliated, felt mocked. Memories resurfaced. Noble boys beating him, mocking his family, calling him the son of a mistress from a lesser bloodline. Furious, Alec shouted that he wasn't a failure, insisting that in a real battle he wouldn't hold back his magius. Deor, playing it cool, reassured him. He said Alec wasn't a failure, but one of the most talented magius users he had ever met. Yet Deor only spoke this way because of the noble audience. Deep down, he knew he could show Alec what true strength was, especially after the mockery he himself had endured as a child. Meanwhile, Yuli visited the king, who was busy writing a letter. She informed him that Deor was ready to embark on his journey. The king thanked her for protecting his son and asked her to continue during his travels. She agreed, but reminded him of his promise. After Deor's training, he must provide her with all the information he had on him. The king sealed the letter with his ice magius. He admitted he had taken too much from Deor already, for in truth, Deor was the rightful heir of the kingdom. Deor finally stepped into the king's chamber, but the light-infused room weighed heavily on him. The magius light pressed against his body, reminding him of what he truly was. The king dismissed missed the soldiers, while Deor insisted Yuli leave as well. He found it strange that his father would share kingdom secrets with a demon girl. But Yuli stood firm, declaring she would never betray them, and that their alliance was in both their best interests. Even Vincent reassured his son. Yuli would accompany him on his next journey. The mission was clear. Deor must deliver a sealed letter to the king of Nordhound across the Sayuk Desert. There, he would train under the king's personal guards, preparing for Invidia's inevitable return. King Sia of Nordhound knew nothing of Deor's true constitution, only of the plan to defeat Invidia using his power. Deor, however, was unsettled. He demanded answers, the origins of his demonic powers, and how he could truly be Vincent's son. The light magius in the chamber began to burn against his body. Vincent explained, the light here was similar to the luminescence of the Sayuk Desert. Though Deor appeared human, he was still a demon. Training in such conditions would make him stronger, just as Yuli had adapted. Impressed by his son's ability to maintain a human form, Vincent instructed him to acquire special garments before departing. He emphasized that Deor must deliver the letter personally. Deor accepted, swearing as Prince Deor Fluenti of the Evangelion Kingdom that he would relay his father's message to the Nordhound ruler. On his way back to his chamber, Deor encountered one of his uncles. Furious, unwilling to accept that Deor could be the key to ending the war. Fry was nearby, eavesdropping. Now he was certain Deor was a demon. Shocked, he realized the king intended to use a demon against his own kind to eliminate the threat. Fry released a magius bug to shadow Deor. Yuli asked where he was heading, and Deor replied he was going to meet a friend who would accompany them. Along the way, he stumbled upon Carmen, surrounded by dead soldiers on the ground. And among them, crawling silently, was one of Frey's bugs. Carmen trembled, insisting he wasn't the one who killed the soldiers. It was the bug on the ground. Deor calmed him, choosing to believe his words. He explained that the creature was a Crossian bug, a magius summon designed to trace a target's every move. The bug rose suddenly, lunging for Deor's head. But Deor anticipated the strike, catching it midair. From Carmen, he learned the bug had been sent by Fry Evangale, one of his uncles. Without hesitation, Deor unleashed his demonic miasma, vaporizing the creature instantly. Yet another bug, the one Fry had dispatched earlier, attached itself to Deor's body from behind. Every time he tried to grab it, the bug evaded him. So Deor surrounded himself with miasma once more, dissolving it just like the first. His aura flared, his expression intense, as he turned to Carmen and asked, "Do you fear me?" Carmen hesitated, but then answered firmly. Even though Deor was a demon, he didn't fear him, he trusted him. Meanwhile, Fry seethed. His plans were unraveling, his bugs destroyed. Determined, he resolved to hire a spy to shadow Deor during his journey. But before he could act, Equali appeared. Seizing Frey's face, Equali unleashed Electro-Magius, electrifying him with brutal force. Equali now isn't just a demon who wielded water magius. Thanks to the yellow crystal he had taken from his dead brother Johann, he now commanded Electro-Magius as well. Things are only getting more interesting with this one. Fry was still alive, staggering, when Equali realized he hadn't yet mastered full control over Johann's crystal. Even so, Fry spat defiance, calling Equali the true villain. And in a way, he wasn't wrong. Equali killed without mercy. But unlike Fry, he never struck without reason. Fry defended himself and his court, admitting they exploited the weak and ignorant, but claiming it was commonplace in their world. Equali countered with chilling clarity. There are flowers that beautify the scenery, and there are weeds that choke them. All we must do is pluck the weeds. He unleashed a powerful Electro-Magius. Fry barely avoided it, countering with a Luxafixa that struck Equali directly on the head. But when the light faded, Equali still stood. Fry froze. Equali was alive, because he was a demon. Before Fry could speak, Equali stabbed him from behind with demonic power, ending his uncle's life. On the side, Princess Solaris had witnessed everything. She tried to flee, but Equali sensed her and stopped her. Solaris understood Equali was supporting Deor's rise to the throne, but she questioned his methods. Deor would never have killed his uncle, even after all the wrongs, she said. Equali thought otherwise. Solaris asked if he intended to kill her, but his response was wild. "I cannot kill the future king of Evangale." Like, bro, come on, even Vincent had declared Deor the true heir, yet Equali twisted the narrative, manipulating Solaris. He asked if she knew why their father had adopted her. He claimed the royal family was a congregation of thieves, nobles who stole, killed, and manipulated to cling to power. Vincent, born sympathetic, had prayed for an end to the corrupted bloodline. According to Equali, when Vincent found Solaris, the heavens had answered. Solaris pushed back, saying Deor was the king's most favored child. Equali immediately twisted again. No, the king only respects him. Deor is a demon, a weapon to eliminate Invidia and bring eternal peace. Solaris was shocked to learn Deor's true nature, and asked if if Equali was a demon too. He dodged the question, shifting the topic, offering to escort her to her room. But Solaris refused, saying she couldn't leave Fry to die. Before she could continue, Equali struck her with demonic power, knocking her unconscious. Then, without hesitation, he devoured Fry. Meanwhile, our boy Deor donned the special armaments his father had prepared. His body restored, his resolve sharpened. He was ready to embark on his journey. Before departing, Deor chose to visit the place Carmen once called home. Carmen explained that Johann had promised to rid the area of devils, but now he couldn't understand how Deor could possibly deal with demons without light magius. Deor showed him the answer. He could devour demons. The miasma swirled thick across the land, but Deor absorbed it, blocking and countering every attack while shielding Carmen. Curious, Carmen asked about the strange presence on Deor's head. Deor revealed that it was Yuli, the demon who would accompany them on their journey. Deor pressed her about the deal she had made with his father, but Yuli refused to answer, reminding him she wasn't obliged to reveal everything. Using his power, Deor devoured the entire miasma surrounding the area. Even he was stunned by how much he could consume. But then things shifted. The overwhelming energy backfired. Deor lost control, coughing blood violently. At that moment, the true master of the territory arrived. A powerful demon surged forward, ripping Deor's arm clean off. The demon lunged with ferocity, its strikes relentless. Deor dodged swiftly, his movements sharper than before. Carmen tried to help, unleashing his light magius, but against this powerful foe it barely scratched the surface. The demon turned on Carmen, but once again Deor stepped in, confining the beast with his miasma. The demon stabbed Deor directly, forcing him to cough blood. Confusion struck him. Demons weren't supposed to bleed like humans. If I am truly a demon, why does my body react this way? Have I not mastered my power yet? He thought. Remembering his training, Deor calmed himself. He stripped away his human emotions, focusing only on control. With his mind clear, he dodged the demon's next attacks effortlessly. Then, with a single devastating blow, he defeated it. Carmen shouted his name, but when Deor turned, his face was empty, devoid of emotion. He was resolved. He would do whatever it took to protect the kingdom. Just then, Carmen sensed another magius presence nearby. Alec had been following them. When he saw Deor's true form, his heart froze. Terror gripped him as he realized Deor was a true demon. Carmen rushed forward and found Alec lurking nearby. Before Alec could strike him down, Deor stepped in, protecting Carmen and immobilizing Alec with his sword pressed against his chin. Since Alec had discovered Deor's secret, they couldn't risk letting him go. Deor ordered Carmen to fetch rope and cloth to silence him. But Alec asked a piercing question. If you're a demon, how do we know the king or your mother isn't one too? Worse, what if the entire royal family are demons? The words cut deep. Deor's mind spiraled into doubt. If factions sought to verify his parents, his father might endure, but his mother could be in grave danger. The thought of her being killed gnawed at him. Caught in this loop of questions, Deor faltered. That's when Yuli emerged openly, her presence undeniable. Guards were approaching fast. Alec seized the moment, kicking the ground with light magius to expose their location. To understand why things escalated this way, recall Fry. Before his death, he had approached Alec, whispering that the Flueni family was hiding something. He hired Alec to shadow Deor, promising rewards for him and his family if he exposed the truth. Now chaos was inevitable. Yuli revealed her true form, unleashing waves of miasma to distract the guards. Alec broke free, firing Luxafixa straight at Yuli. She dodged easily, taunting him, drawing his focus away. Then she tossed Deor's limp body toward Carmen, ordering him to get out of the castle. Yuli lowered her defenses when she saw Deor's state, just a lump of flesh, unable to fight back. Alec seized the chance and struck her. Yuli cursed herself. She had believed Deor was capable enough to defend himself, but now he was helpless. Her priorities shifted. Her contract was with the king, not Deor. If he died here, so be it. A demon is still a demon. Alec launched another Luxafixa, and Yuli flew off, heading toward the king. Deor, barely conscious, saw blood spilling nearby. Chaos erupted. The king himself, Vincent, was being chased by his own guards. He was bleeding heavily, staggering. And then the truth was revealed. His missing eye was a contractor's eye. The secret was out. Vincent, king of Evangale, was a contractor bound to a demon. His hidden truth was now exposed to the entire kingdom. Vincent, bleeding and staggering, unleashed his ice magius to freeze the guards in place, forcing them back as he pressed forward. He climbed the tower, where the powerful demon Invidia loomed, its gaze locked entirely on him. Yuli arrived, demanding answers. She reminded Vincent of their contract. She would assist him in his schemes, and in return he would help her recover her lost memories. Vincent knew her history, but in his current state, he looked close to death. Even so, his thoughts weren't on himself. He was only worried about Deor, desperate to get his son out of the kingdom before the chaos consumed him. Lord Mycral appeared, furious that the guards hadn't eliminated the king. As they hesitated, unwilling to strike their ruler, Mycral acted himself. He unleashed a powerful light magius, hitting Vincent directly. The king didn't even bother to dodge. His focus was elsewhere, on the incoming attack from Nvidia. The demon's strike descended, but Vincent refused to fall. In a shocking reveal, he tapped into his own demonic power. With it, he controlled his son Deor, forcing him to intercept the attack. Yes, Vincent himself wielded demonic power, and he had control over Deor. Meanwhile, Iquali watched from the shadows, waiting for this exact chaos. And now, with Vincent awakening his dormant son, the stage was set. Iquali, the cunning demon who had already shown mastery of water and electromagius, was ready to make his move. Things were about to get very, very interesting. Deor was no longer the boy we knew. He was fully demon now, stripped of emotion, fighting like a force of nature. One of the guards tried to fire Luxafixa, but Alex stopped him, warning that Deor had just blocked a tremendous strike from Nvidia with a single blow. None of them stood a chance. Deor raised his arm, unleashing miasma that killed one of the guards instantly. Vincent collapsed, his body failing, but Yuli was there to catch him. The guards surrounded them, ready to strike, when suddenly a barrier shimmered into place. Dante had arrived, lending his strength. It was revealed that Fry had orchestrated much of this chaos. The king's weakened state was due to poison, another layer of betrayal. Dante quickly used a teleportation spell, whisking Yuli and Vincent away to safety. Meanwhile, the guards reported to Wolfgang, another of Vincent's sons, declaring that the king was guilty of treason and conspiracy with demons. Deor, however, was beyond caring. Surrounded, he fought like a true demon, merciless and unstoppable. And then Iquali arrived. He wore his usual mask of sorrow, pretending to grieve for his brother's state, as if he weren't a demon himself. But beneath that false face, his plan was unfolding exactly as he intended. Iquali feigned sorrow, calling out to his brother to wake up, but his actions betrayed him. He amplified the guard's magius with his water power, forcing Deor into a relentless clash. Yet Deor held his ground, killing anyone who dared to stop him without mercy. Before the guards could cast their next move, Deor expanded his miasma, choking their spells. Iquali then forced Deor's attention onto himself, drawing him into direct combat. Their duel was fierce. Iquali drove Deor to dodge midair, while Deor used the nearby building to propel himself forward, aiming for a fatal strike. For a moment, Iquali knew death was certain. He dropped his mask, showing his true demonic face just long enough to evade and counter. Deor gathered his miasma midair, preparing a devastating blow, but Iquali was already ready. Then the guards intervened, firing light magius that struck Deor and brought him down. They surrounded him, intent on killing him. Iquali, ever manipulative, used his water magius to immobilize Deor. Deor collapsed, unconscious. But it wasn't the guards or Iquali who felled him. The truth was darker. The red ring Vincent had carried all this time deactivated. That ring was the key. It could control Deor, and with its power shut down, our boy fell into unconsciousness. While Deor lay unconscious, his mind drifted back into the past. He remembered falling to the ground as the noble children mocked him, laughing and calling him a peasant's child. They questioned if he could even speak, and when he did, they still rejected him. The nobles around him looked down on him, as if he were nothing more than an insect. Confused and hurt, Deor once asked his father why they hated him so much. Vincent's answer was simple: because you are different, and when people do not understand those who are different, fear is born. Fear creates hatred. Back in the present, Deor awoke to find himself bound, powerful light magius burning above him. He was in the middle of the royal court. One noble scoffed at the absurdity. The king's son was a demon, and the king himself a contractor. He accused Mycral of exploiting the chaos to claim the throne. Mycral countered by presenting all the evidence he had gathered against Deor, demanding to strike him with light magius so the entire court could see the truth. Still, many nobles hesitated. They believed in Vincent, unwilling to accept Mycral's claims without full proof that the king was a contractor. Princess Stella stepped forward, silencing one of the nobles with her authority. Then, one of the guards unleashed his light magius upon Deor. His body dissolved into miasma before their eyes. The court gasped, undeniable proof. Deor was a demon. The royal court erupted into chaos, voices rising, accusations flying. Deor, bound and surrounded by light magius, forced himself to remain calm, docile, even as Mycral, that venomous lizard, kept spewing lies, twisting the nobles rebels against the king and his son. He painted them as traitors, conspirators with demons, long-term enemies of the realm. Before the tension could explode, Dante strode into the chamber. His voice cut through the noise, correcting Mykral's narrative. He revealed the truth. Fry Evangale had poisoned the king in a silent bid for assassination, aiming to seize the crown. Dante had gathered evidence from their supplier, an illegal apothecary dealing in poisons. Worse, several affiliates in the very courtroom were implicated in supporting the plot. Mykral, cornered, tried to deflect. He shouted that the king was a contractor, implying he had been under demonic control for too long. Dante countered immediately, stabilizing the room. He declared the king had his reasons for contracting and asked for time to clarify. Princess Stella stepped forward, her voice commanding silence. She reminded the court that Vincent was a pensive, calculating man, his loyalty reputable across the kingdom. Then she turned to Deor. "Is that right?" she asked. Deor bowed respectfully. "I am a royal prince of Galeus. My power will protect our lands." He defended his father, explaining that Vincent had kept silent because of the controversy surrounding the use of a demon. Stella pressed harder. "One of the very monsters we fight against is here, within the palace, protected by the ruler. For what purpose?" Deor answered simply, "To defeat Invidia. Demons consume humans. But I am different. I consume demons, even though I am one myself." The court murmured, unsettled. Yet Deor's words were overshadowed by his past actions. Just moments ago, under his father's control, he had killed soldiers. Mykral seized the moment, screaming that Deor could never be trusted. And then silence broke with steel. Yuli appeared, her blade piercing Mykral. The schemer's lies ended in blood. The bastard finally got what he deserved. The moment Yuli appeared, the guards unleashed their light magius against her. But it was useless. She had already adapted to their radiance. With ruthless precision, she shattered their light crystals, plunging the chamber into chaos. Deor wanted her to stop, but this was all part of Vincent's plan. Yuli would distract the soldiers while Dante escorted Deor to safety. Princess Stella acted quickly, ordering her trusted guard Gabrielle to lead Wolfgang's soldiers in pursuit of Dante and Deor, and to locate the king at once. Then Stella turned her attention to Equali. Little did she know, everything unfolding was orchestrated by him. Yes, this demon had been pulling strings from the shadows all along. Equali leaned in, his voice dripping with manipulation. He told Stella he believed she was the true heir to the crown. Stella, aware of her own limitations, admitted she wasn't strong enough to rule. Equali lied smoothly, claiming he had heard Vincent himself announce she would be the next king. He held her close as they descended, reminding her that Vincent had declared any of his kin could rule, even a woman like her. When one of the guards was about to be slain, Stella stepped forward, protecting him with her light magius. She then asked about Solaris, pointing out that her sister possessed far stronger magius than she did. Equali twisted the truth again, insisting Solaris had only been adopted so her magius could be exploited, not to raise her as an heir. And Stella, known for her intelligence, failed to see through his lies. She began to believe she was the rightful heir. Just then, Solaris arrived, her light magius blazing, and she turned it against Yuli. As Solaris unleashed her divine light magius, Yuli quickly realized she couldn't withstand it. Even she admitted aloud, Solaris's light was blessed by the gods themselves. Forced to change tactics, Yuli fled, vanishing from the battlefield. Solaris turned her attention to Mykral, attempting to heal him. The guards pressed her for answers about Fry. Calmly, she told them Fry was dead. She knew the one responsible stood beside her, yet she withheld the truth. Stella, hearing of Frey's death, fell deeper into Equali's trap. Manipulated by his lies, she now believed she could be the next ruler. When Solaris's eyes met Equali, the demon cloaked himself in false sorrow, pretending concern. "Are you okay?" he asked, feigning sympathy, his mask of deception flawless. Deor and Dante's escape was cut short as multiple soldiers blocked their path, casting waves of light magius. Deor focused on dodging, weaving through their attacks to stay out of range, while Dante stood firm, holding his ground to buy precious time. But Deor noticed something. Dante hadn't sensed the soldiers beforehand. That meant he was too fatigued, his strength waning. Even though Dante fought bravely, defending himself and shielding Deor, he struggled to break free. The soldiers pressed harder, giving him no chance to escape. From the side, Deor unleashed his miasma, shattering their focus and scattering their formation. The distraction gave Dante the opening he needed. He surged forward, breaking through their line. Deor advanced immediately after, following Dante, his miasma still lingering in the air to keep the soldiers at bay. Together, they pushed onward, their path carved through chaos. We cut to Vincent, and honestly, he's looking nothing like a king right now. To figure out how things spiraled into this mess, let's rewind a few hours earlier. The king was about to sit down for his usual meal when a soldier walked in, carrying written complaints from villagers near the borders. Nothing unusual, until Vincent took a sip of his food. Suddenly, he started coughing up blood. His meal had been poisoned. That poison didn't just weaken Vincent's body, it opened the door for something far worse. Remember that veil crown? Turns out, the demon Vincent had secretly made a contract with was living inside it. And the moment Vincent's strength faltered, the demon seized control. In an instant, Vincent lost himself. The demon took over, and under its influence, Vincent killed one of his maidens. Soldiers rushed in after seeing the dark miasma pouring out of their king. They struck him with Luxafixa, a spell powerful enough to shatter the half-mask Vincent wore. Turns out, that mask wasn't hiding an injury at all. His eye was perfectly fine, but it revealed the truth. Vincent wasn't just their king. He was a contractor. As more soldiers rushed toward the king, Mycrawl was right there, curious about the commotion. He stopped one of them and asked what was happening. The soldier didn't hold back. He pointed out that the king had killed one of his maidens and, worse, revealed himself as a contractor. Mycrawl couldn't help but laugh. Why? Because this was exactly what he and Fry had plotted all along. They were the ones who poisoned Vincent's food, but things had escalated far beyond their expectations. Now the king wasn't just weakened, he was exposed as a contractor attacking his own people. That meant his support would crumble, he'd be dethroned, and Fry would rise as king. For Mycrawl, that promised a much higher position than he ever dreamed of. Meanwhile, Vincent was in full rampage mode. But instead of just watching the chaos, we dive into his mind. There, he's wearing a ring, the same ring that controls his son, Deor. Suddenly, a chilling voice cuts through, demanding Vincent return something. The voice drips with venom, calling him a thief, evil, vile. That voice wasn't random. It came from a dark red miasma, and it belonged to none other than the powerful demon Invidia. Invidia raged about humans, accusing them of stealing everything, and warned Vincent, "Give it back, or it would consume them all." This wasn't just a general hatred. Invidia had a personal grudge against Vincent. When Vincent snapped back to his senses, the scene was pure carnage. Soldiers lay dead, too many had fallen to his hand, and Invidia's voice didn't stop, pressing him further. Desperate, Vincent rushed to the rooftop, only to see Invidia's attack bearing down. With no other choice, he used his son to shield the kingdom. As for what happened next, well, we've already witnessed that devastation. We're still in the past here. Vincent wakes up and immediately asks Dante about his brother, Fry. Dante explains that Fry has been sneaking around the underground apothecaries, the shady kind that deal in illegal concoctions. Most likely, Fry bribed a few of the staff to poison Vincent's food. Yuli is thrilled. Vincent's own brother tried to kill him. Dante continues, saying he couldn't detect Frey's magius anywhere, just like what happened with Johann. And we know why. Equali killed them and consumed them. But Dante and the others still don't realize that Equali is a demon. Then Vincent does something unexpected. He hands Yuli a piece of her missing memories, part of their contract. Yuli is shocked. If she takes it, she could break free and fly away, ending their deal. But Vincent is confident she won't. He's certain that once she reads the contents, she'll stay by Deor's side. Vincent gives Yuli an important mission. He removes the ring, the one that controls Deor, and hands it to her. His instructions are clear. She and Deor must leave the kingdom, head north, and at the border they'll meet a young woman waiting for them. Yuli is to give her the ring, because that woman will become Deor's new contractor. The moment Vincent takes off the ring, his body reacts violently. Blood pours from his wounds, his injuries worsen, and he begins losing control over the crown, the very place where the demon he contracted resides. Still, Vincent reassures Dante not to worry. He's lived with the crown for 50 years. It's part of him now. His final orders to Dante and Yuli are simple but heavy: protect Deor. Vincent accepts his fate. His body is already dead. The only reason he can speak or move is because of the crown's power, or rather, the demon's power. Before Yuli departs, Vincent asks her to deliver one last message to his son. Tell Deor that his father begs for forgiveness. Back in Solaris's side of the story, the doctor had arrived to tend to Mycrawl, while Solaris was nearly finished purging the miasma with her blessed light magius. Equali, though, wasn't focused on the healing. He was plotting. Truth is, he wanted to kill Solaris right then and there. He could have easily, but since she was so easy to manipulate, he held back. Instead, he approached her, pretending to offer help. Once the miasma cleared, Solaris was still shaken by everything Equali had done. Playing the role of the deceiver, Equali acted surprised that she had woken up so quickly after he'd put her to sleep. Solaris pulled him aside, away from prying ears, and asked the question burning in her mind. Why did he kill Fry? Equali, with his usual manipulative nonsense, claimed Fry had a strong chance of claiming the crown, and that he killed him only so Solaris could become the next king. No shame at all. Classic devil behavior. When Solaris told him murder was unacceptable, he twisted the story further, saying Fry had tried to kill Deor, and Johann had even joined forces with him, hiring assassins to eliminate Deor. But Solaris stood firm. She made it clear she didn't want to be king, and that was exactly what Iquali wanted to hear. Every step of his plan was falling into place. He doubled down, telling her she lacked the qualities of a ruler: courage, skepticism, and the resolve to punish evil. He was making sure she'd never consider the throne again. Just then, Stella arrived. She ordered her sister Solaris to help the others clear the demon miasma around the castle. Meanwhile, Yuli was searching for Deor and Carmen. Using her power mid-air, she distracted the guards chasing them and finally managed to locate the pair. But before she could breathe easy, the entire castle was suddenly engulfed in a massive surge of ice magius. And yes, it was the king's ice magius. Yuli finally reunited with Deor and Carmen. Deor, sharp as ever, asked why the king was flooding the castle with his magius. Yuli stayed quiet, unwilling to reveal too much. But Deor's eyes caught something: his father's ring, now resting on Yuli's hand. With a playful stance, Yuli tried to command him using the ring. The attempt fell flat. Deor realized the ring had the power to control him, but he wasn't rattled. Yuli found it hilarious, teasing him about what it must have felt like being treated as nothing more than a tool all these years. Deor wasn't about to let her keep it. He wrapped his miasma around her leg without her noticing, threw her off balance, and reclaimed the ring. He made his stance clear. Even if the king had controlled him, it didn't matter. His mission was unshaken: to protect the kingdom and its people. Yuli was stunned. In just weeks of training, Deor had already mastered his miasma with precision. Then she revealed the king's final order. She was tasked with delivering the ring to a young woman waiting at the northern border. That woman, Vincent's daughter, red-haired, wielding fire magius. The daughter saw the castle encased in ice and knew instantly her father's end was near. Inside, Vincent was drenched in blood, his body wrapped in a suffocating demonic aura. The demon mocked him, asking how it felt to be at its mercy. But Vincent had once confined this very demon using the ring, trapping it inside the crown for countless years. And that ring? It wasn't ordinary. It was Invidia's ring. Suddenly, everything clicked. Invidia had appeared earlier demanding Vincent return it, because humans had stolen the ring generations ago, passing it down like treasure. Vincent pressed further, asking why the demon hadn't killed him when he removed the ring. The answer was chilling. Vincent wasn't like the rest of his lineage, blinded by greed and apathy. He was compassionate, and strangely, this demon valued compassion. Then came the shock. The demon shifted into its past human form. That's when the truth dropped. All demons were once human. The demon of the crown confirmed it, saying he knew for certain Invidia, himself, even Deor and Yuli, all had once been human. That revelation changes everything. And trust me, we'll dig deeper into this mystery in the events ahead. The crown is sitting there, pulsing with this demonic miasma, completely out of control. Gabriel, one of Stella's soldiers, gets this reckless idea: if I grab it now, I'll be king. Big mistake. The instant his hand touches the crown, the demon inside latches onto him, draining his life force right there on the spot. One of the royal soldiers, watching this horror unfold, shouts out what everyone's thinking: only someone with pure royal blood can claim it. His eyes turn to Prince Antonio. But Antonio, seeing Gabriel's fate, refuses. He says he won't touch a crown that reeks of such foul energy. Then comes Prince Wolfgang. He steps forward with confidence, convinced he can handle it. The moment his fingers brush the crown, gone. Devoured just like Gabriel. And here's the thing. Iquali is watching all of this from the shadows. Every death, every failed attempt, it's all part of his plan to clear the path of heirs. Now it's Stella's turn. Iquali swoops in, pretending to care, warning her not to touch it. She pulls away, determined, believing her magius light can suppress the crown's corruption. And for a moment, it looks like she's right. She clears the miasma, even manages to hold the crown. But then it awakens again, stronger, hungrier. It consumes her too, unleashing a surge of miasma that lashes out, killing soldiers around them. The chaos spreads, and suddenly Iquali himself is targeted. But Antonio and his younger brother step in, shielding him. Together, they grip the crown, telling Iquali to go and find their father. And that's the moment everything clicks into place. The trap is complete. Iquali's plan has worked perfectly. Vincent suddenly feels it, the magius fading inside the throne room. Alarmed, he questions the crown's demon directly. Is this your doing? The demon answers without hesitation. He explains that anyone who touches the crown is consumed, because he refuses to let mortals wield such power so freely. The crown isn't just a symbol, it's the power to rule itself. But there is a way to claim it. Only those with equal power, the contractors, can take hold of the crown. That's the hidden rule. The demon then shares a piece of lore. For centuries, contractors have passed the crown down, generation after generation, suppressing the spirit of its first owner. That suppressed soul eventually twisted into the demon, now bound within the crown. When Vincent asks how he became a demon, the creature admits he doesn't remember. Once someone transforms into a demon, their past life is erased. Vincent presses further, wanting to know how a human can become a demon. The crown's demon warns him, such knowledge is dangerous. It attracts the gods, and that path leads only to ruin. But then he pauses, realizing Vincent is different. Vincent is favored by the gods themselves, which changes everything. Before we follow that thread, the scene shifts to Princess Solaris. She senses the disappearance of multiple magius and rushes to find Dante, wounded on the ground. Dante reassures her not to worry. Deor is already taking steps to protect the kingdom. He even remarks that Deor's appearance mirrors his father, Vincent. Just then, Gabriel appears. Somehow, despite being consumed earlier, he's alive. He demands Dante reveal the king's location. Up to this point, Vincent still hasn't realized the truth, that his own son, Equali, is a demon. And Equali doesn't even try to hide it anymore. He shows his true face, declaring he doesn't care if his father hates him for it. He spins lies about how this is all for the kingdom's future, for Deor's future, but his words are nothing more than a mask for his ambition. Then the fight begins. Equali launches his water magius in a fierce attack. Vincent reacts instantly, raising an ice shield to block the assault. He counters by summoning sharp ice spikes from beneath the ground, but Equali smashes through them with ease, barely slowed. Next, Equali traps Vincent inside a massive bubble of water, aiming to finish him in one strike, the same ruthless move he used against Johann and Sasha. But Vincent isn't so easily defeated. He survives, and in that moment, he reveals his hidden strategy. He surrounds Equali with chilling ice, but the real danger isn't the frost itself, it's the curse woven into it. The problem though, because Equali is a demon, the frost curse doesn't destroy him. He endures it, proving just how dangerous he truly is. With the frost curse locking down Equali's water magius, he can't rely on the water element anymore. That's when things take a darker turn. Equali tosses the useless water crystals aside, and Vincent suddenly realizes his son has been using water runes to manifest water magius all along. Shock hits him. Then Equali reveals the lightning rune he stole from Johann. In that instant, Vincent understands the truth. His son murdered his own brother. Equali doesn't deny it. In fact, he admits it with a twisted grin, even boasting that he killed Stella too, claiming all it took was twisting her ego until she fell. The clash escalates, lightning against ice. Vincent pushes his frost curse, but Equali stands unfazed, as if the curse means nothing to him. That's when the crown's demon appears, urging Vincent to do the unthinkable, kill his own son. The demon unleashes a wave of dark attacks, striking Equali directly and tearing his body apart. But Equali regenerates almost instantly. That's the moment Vincent finally sees the truth with his own eyes. His son is a demon. He demands to know Equali's purpose, and Equali, cold and direct, lays it bare. His goal is the same as Invidia's, to wipe out humanity. As Vincent tears Equali's body apart, his son doesn't flinch. Instead, Equali begins speaking with unsettling calm, revealing he knows Invidia's past and even Deor's history. He explains that Deor was forced into becoming a demon by the very humans around him, betrayed by his own kind. Equali claims he wants to return it. Vincent presses him, asking if his contempt for humanity is truly so deep that he would erase mankind from the earth. But Equali reminds him, demons don't feel emotions. Then he turns his attention to the crown's demon, calling him by name, Sir Albert Custos, once the ancient guardian of what was known as the Evangelion Kingdom. Albert is stunned. He doesn't even remember his own name, yet Equali knows it. But Equali twists the knife further, admitting he lied. He only wanted to see if a demon who consumed enough humans could regain fragments of human emotion. That revelation cuts deep, because it exposes the paradox. Demons are born from losing all emotion, yet Deor, overflowing with feeling, still exists as a demon. That contradiction fascinates Equali. Could a demon ever turn back into a human? Then Equali lays bare Vincent's plan. He declares that Vincent never intended to crown Deor king. Instead, Vincent adopted Solaris to wear the crown, while Deor's role was to become a weapon, a demon strong enough to fight Invidia, only to be discarded afterward. Equali spits this truth out with venom, accusing his father of using Deor as nothing more than a tool. Vincent, horrified, calls it a wretched method. He reminds Equali of Invidia's atrocities, how he consumed countless human lives and purged the land without remorse. Vincent makes his stance clear. Demons must be eradicated eradicated, especially those who seek humanity's destruction. Fueled by conviction, Vincent lunges forward, demanding to know why his son has chosen such extreme measures. But before he can strike, Equali drives his blade into him. Vincent collapses, blood spilling across the ground. Equali wastes no time. He moves in to finish his father once and for all. Meanwhile, far away, Deor halts. He feels it. The castle, once encased in ice, is now drenched in a blood-red aura. Deor freezes, his eyes locked on the red miasma swirling around the castle. A voice cuts through the haze. It's Invidia, demanding the return of the ring Deor carries. The pull is strong, almost dragging him deeper into that dark influence. But just then Rosalie, his sister, rushes in. She snaps him out of it, warning that they need to leave immediately. Deor hesitates, worried about his father, but Rosalie insists. These are Vincent's orders, even beyond death. The castle erupts, red miasma exploding outward. Invidia's voice presses harder, echoing in Deor's mind. Rosalie urges him to hand her the ring quickly. The red haze thickens, twisting into a darker miasma that spreads across the castle grounds. Deor grabs his sister, and with urgency, tells Carmi they must move fast. Meanwhile, the soldiers are caught in the storm. They're forced to battle against two overwhelming forces, the dark miasma pouring from the demon's crown, and the red miasma of Invidia closing in. Inside the throne room, Helen arrives to find Antonio, his younger brother, and Solaris working together. Their light magius is the only thing holding back the crown's corruption. But they're not just fighting the crown, they're bracing for Invidia's approach. And then, Equali steps into the throne room. His face is marked by the frost curse, but he's still standing. Solaris senses something horrifying, Johan's magius radiating from Equali. She's stunned, because Johan is supposed to be dead. Yet here it is, alive within Equali. With that, Equali begins to advance toward the crown, preparing himself for the next move. Not only Solaris, but even Helen senses Johan's magius radiating from Equali. The shock is heavy, but Helen decides to hold back for now, choosing to monitor Equali later rather than act immediately. Then Antonio learns the devastating truth. Equali killed their father. But Equali twists the story, lying through his teeth. He claims Vincent was a contractor who hid the demon inside the crown to gain more power. And to make it worse, he says he retrieved Johan's crystal from Vincent, implying Vincent murdered Johan himself. Honestly, tell me this doesn't sound exactly like Eisen-level manipulation. At that moment, Hess Evangale enters, the youngest brother of Vincent. He tries to suppress the crown, unleashing lightning spells against it. But the crown doesn't budge. We already know why. Only a contractor can truly control it. Hess is outmatched. Then Equali raises his hand, ready to kill both Antonio and Hess. But when Hess locks eyes with him, Equali hesitates, pulling back. Hess realizes the truth. Vincent must be dead. After all, Vincent only ever uses the frost curse when he's on the brink of being murdered. Equali then steps closer to the crown. To everyone's shock, he begins suppressing it with ease. Solaris is stunned. None of them could manage this, yet Equali does it effortlessly. The crown's demon erupts in fury, cursing Equali with every vile word imaginable. And here's the irony. A demon calling out another demon, even though they're both cut from the same darkness. The crown's demon challenges Equali, asking where his compassion is, reminding him he was once human, or so everyone believed. The reveal: Equali was never human to begin with. From the very start, he was born a demon. Claudia, mother of Equali, Johan, and Stella, gave birth to twins. The moment Equali came into the world, he killed the maiden who assisted Claudia. Imagine that, an infant demon, terrifying even in its smallest form. Claudia, holding her newborns, was shaken to the core. Then an eye appeared in the air, speaking to Claudia. It declared the child's name, Equali. Of water, aqua of life, given equally to all. From that day forward, Claudia kept her secret. She never told anyone her son was a demon. She raised him alongside his siblings, but always with fear in her heart. When Equali called out to her, she would isolate him, telling the others not to enter the room. She hugged him, whispering that no one must ever know what he truly was, urging him to act like his siblings. Growing up in the shadows, Equali never felt sadness, joy, or anger. He only learned emotions by watching humans, mimicking what he saw, but he never truly experienced them. The crown's demon presses further, asking why Equali follows Invidia's path to eradicate humanity. Equali's answer is cold. He sees humans as despicable creatures. Then he calls the crown's demon by his true name, Alberto Castassa. 900 years ago, Alberto was the high priest, guardian of the ancient kingdom of Evangale. But he betrayed his empire, joining a coup against the emperor and his son, Prince Invidia. And now, time for the jaw-dropping twist. twist. Prince Ignace Invidia Diorsum of the Evangelion Empire. That name ties everything together. Could it mean that Invidia and Deor are one and the same? That Deor was once Prince Ignace Invidia Diorsum? We're still in the past. Word reaches Prince Diorsum. The High Priest, Alberto Castassa, has joined the coup d'etat. Soldiers report that Castassa has already led an army through the main gates, overwhelming the infantry. His magius is far beyond anything they can withstand. Diorsum turns to his father, Emperor Tristitia Red Diorsum, seated on the throne, asking what they should do. The king is baffled by the question. His answer is simple: kill them all. To him, the kingdom has no use for those who disobey. But Diorsum resists. He doesn't want to massacre their people. His father, however, doesn't even see them as people. To him, they're livestock, animals to be controlled. Diorsum defends them, insisting they are the heart of the country. The king dismisses this, declaring that it is the king who decides what counts as a person. He creates the law, and only the strong deserve to live. Diorsum warns his father that the rebels intend to assassinate him. The king, arrogant and self-absorbed, scoffs. To him, only power matters. Those who manipulate, trick, steal, cheat, and fight are the ones who prosper. Just then, Alberto Castassa himself enters with a flood of soldiers. Diorsum steps forward, hoping to talk, but Castassa refuses. He declares they've had enough of the court enslaving them. Diorsum's soldiers rush to defend, calling the rebels vermin. But Diorsum knows the truth. His father is the one at fault. Day after day, Emperor Tristitia indulges in luxury with his closest protege, while the people of the Evangelion Empire suffer in poverty, violence, and despair. Ignace Invidia Diorsum, the prince, has had enough. He longs for change, pouring sleepless nights into creating spells to help farmers and common folk. His father, meanwhile, has become a slave to his own indulgence, caring nothing for the empire's future. He refuses to share knowledge with those of lower status, dismissing them as thoughtless animals. Ignace pushes back, asking what defines lesser status. Poverty, he argues, prevents people from cultivating themselves, from keeping pace with those who have resources. The king, however, wants his son to keep the people ignorant, easier to control. Ignace sees a different path. He believes the Evangelion Empire can rise higher. Its people can cooperate, control their impulses, and achieve unity. After countless sleepless nights, he succeeds in creating a magius formula to increase harvests. He brings it to his father, determined to share it with the people. But the king refuses, fearing that knowledge will make them strong enough to steal his wealth. Now we shift back to Equali's past. One day, he sees his father Vincent reading an ancient book about the Evangelion kingdom. In it, Ignace wrote about how old principles limited growth. He believed humans could create magnificent inventions, formulate incredible ideas, and achieve discoveries beyond imagination. He envisioned a kingdom where individuals worked together, united for something greater. We must guide our people, our country. We must all cooperate and work together, Ignace wrote. When Vincent leaves the room, the young demon Equali sneaks in and reads the entire book. That's how he learns the kingdom's past. In its pages, he finds the old king's words. Emotions are weakness, tools for manipulation, useless burdens. Ignace's reply stands in stark contrast. He swore to shower people with compassion, to let them feel bliss, to help them understand. As little Equali raises his head, he sees Ignace's portrait. And in that moment, the demon child wonders, does that mean I can feel emotions too? We're still in the past, and the palace guards are scrambling, trying to figure out where Equali disappeared to. They're searching everywhere, but when he finally shows himself, he overhears a group of noble ladies gossiping about him. And not in a flattering way. They're whispering that he never smiles, never shows emotion, and honestly, they find it unsettling. Some even go as far as calling him a stupid little prince. Equali is fascinated. To him, humans are interesting, so he strolls right up to them, pretending to be cheerful, even forcing a smile. He tells them he's not cold or emotionless, just a thoughtful guy who enjoys being lost in his own mind. What can I say? Even as a kid, he knew how to flip the narrative. The ladies, embarrassed, quickly apologize. But let's be real, they didn't mean it. They were lying through their teeth. And while they're busy chatting about demons gathering near the palace, they have no clue the real demon is standing right beside them. That's when Equali goes to confront his mother, Claudia. He's full of questions. Are there other demons like him? Can humans actually turn into demons? And then he drops something shocking. He tells her he's seen it happen. He witnessed a villager transform into a demon with his own eyes. See, Equali spent most of his time among humans, and he noticed something nobody else seemed to care about. The palace ignored the villagers, and the villagers ignored each other. Claudia is stunned by what he's saying, but Equali doesn't stop there. He presses harder, asking if she'd be happy if he became human. For a moment, hope flickers across her face. She actually thinks it might be possible. But then comes the gut punch. He asks her straight up, "Am I not human enough for you?" That's brutal. And honestly, can you blame her? Any mother would be terrified if her child was a demon. Still, Equali keeps pushing, question after question. Is she afraid of what he'll become? Or is it the danger he carries inside him? Finally, he grabs her hand, hand, assuring her he loves her, his siblings, and even his father. He promises he won't harm anyone. But things took a sharp turn. Johan, lurking nearby, has been suspicious all along. He's known something was off about Equali from the very beginning. And instead of waiting any longer, Johan strikes, attacking Equali from behind with his lightning magius. The attack forces Equali's true form to surface, and Johan finally knows for sure his brother is a demon. But Equali doesn't hesitate. He lunges forward, immobilizing Johan in an instant. Claudia's heart nearly stops. She's terrified her son might kill Johan right there. But Equali calms her, promising he won't. The noise draws soldiers, ready to intervene, but then something eerie happens. Remember that glowing eye from the day Equali was born? It takes control of Claudia again. With that power, she reassures the soldiers that everything is fine, claiming Johan is just showing off his magius. Equali keeps Johan pinned down and actually gives him advice, telling him that when fighting demons, he can't just give in to impulse. He has to observe, study, and then act. Johan, desperate, manages to land a punch on Equali's head, but it's useless. Equali's body is pure miasma. Physical blows don't faze him. Claudia and Equali press Johan, wanting to know how he figured it out. Johan explains, Equali feels like a void, empty of emotion. He's not radiating magius like a normal human, only masking himself with their mother's water rune. His presence reeks of demon miasma. That's how Johan knew. Equali reassures his mother again. He won't kill Johan, but he will erase his brother's memory of this entire incident. And as he does, he reveals something deeper, his own curiosity. He admits he desperately wants to know what emotions feel like. He even says he longs to meet Prince Ignis Invidia Deorsum. Time moves forward. The king marries his fourth wife, Camille Fluenti, the woman destined to give birth to Deor. Claudia takes Equali to meet his new brother, Deor Fluenti. And the moment Equali lays eyes on him, he knows. This isn't just any child. This is the one. Deor is none other than the ancient prince himself, Ignis Invidia Deorsum reborn. His gaze is unmistakable, piercing like a steady flame. A demon disguised as human, just like Equali. To avoid some confusion, Deor is Ignis, and Ignis is Invidia, the most powerful demon of them all. In other words, Deor is Invidia, but Equali is baffled. Deorsum is a demon, yet he bleeds blood, and he's full of emotion. It's a contradiction. Still, the eyes don't lie. They burn with the same fire as before. Now let's rewind 900 years. Reverend Castassa, the demon of the crown, was the one who killed that flame. Castassa betrayed the rightful prince, claiming the tyrant king was a monster and that his son deserved the same fate. He justified it by saying Ignis had become Invidia, devouring humans. But the truth? Deorsum was never like his father. He was merciful, he cared for his people. His transformation into a demon was born from betrayal, not cruelty. Castassa, blinded by trust in his coup d'etat allies, was betrayed himself. They sealed him into the crown and used his power to rule. And centuries later, Equali was born into that cursed lineage. But history has a way of circling back. Just as Castassa's life was ruined by betrayal, Equali ends his life by devouring him. The moment he does, the red crystal sealed in the crown shatters. And with that, our ancient prince, Deorsum, loses control. Deorsum has fully unleashed his demon form, and the timing couldn't be worse. The guards, who chased them all the way here, rush in, only to be cut down instantly. Deorsum doesn't hesitate. He kills them on the spot. And then the real nightmare steps in, Invidia itself, demanding its body back. Don't worry, we'll get into why Deorsum and Invidia are separated later. But for now, just know this is the collision point. Equali, watching the miasma swirl around, quickly questions one of the guards about Deor's whereabouts. The answer? They've tracked him heading toward the Sayak desert. Meanwhile, Carmen is frozen stiff. Fear has him locked in place. He remembers Deor's words. Don't fear anything, stay calm, think things through. But staring at Invidia in its full form, his mind can't hold steady. Fear is everywhere, choking him. Rosalie steps up, launching fire magius to pull Invidia's attention away. In the chaos, the ring, the one artifact capable of controlling Invidia, slips to the ground. Invidia lashes out, but Yuli intervenes, shielding Rosalie and snatching the ring back. Rosalie, desperate, conjures a fire shield to protect herself, then slips the ring onto her finger. She calls out with everything she has. Deor, your new contractor is me. I, Rosalie Lynn Victoria, will bind you to my blood. Obey my command, Deor Fluenti. But instead of salvation, the ritual backfires. It fails instantly, and Rosalie pays the price. She dies on the spot. Yuli, seeing the horror of what just happened, turns to Carmen. No more hesitation. She tells him to toughen up, to pick up the ring. Because now, whether he's ready or not, Carmen is going to be the contractor. Yuli lays it all out for Carmen. She explains that King Vincent once used that very ring to control Deorsum. Through it, Vincent became a contractor, channeling Deorsum's power to dominate the crown. Only contractors can wield the crown. That's why it was kept secret. Anyone foolish enough to touch the crown without being a contractor would die instantly. Now the truth hits hard. The only way to bring Deorsum back to normal is to bind him into a contract. And the only human left standing here? Carmen. Carmen's face goes pale, his voice barely working. Yuli prepares to distract Deorsum so Carmen can grab the ring and command him. But Carmen is frozen, paralyzed by fear. He can't forget what just happened to Rosalie. She tried to bind Deorsum and died instantly. That's when Yuli snaps. She lashes out at him, demanding if he's going to stay a coward forever, letting fear consume every part of him. Her words cut deep, hitting the wound he's been carrying. And that's the manipulation. She digs into his pain to force him forward. Carmen reflects on Deorsum himself. Even after Carmen once tried to assassinate him, Deorsum gave him a chance. That memory stirs something inside him. Finally, Carmen gathers his courage and bolts toward the ring. But the horror doesn't stop. As he runs, Deorsum begins devouring Rosalie's corpse. Yuli realizes something crucial in that moment. Rosalie's death wasn't just a failed ritual. It proves Vincent never revealed Deorsum's true name. Without it, no contract can succeed, which means Vincent never intended for Rosalie to become a contractor. He set her up to die. What a lovely father. Carmen reaches the ring, trembling but determined. Yuli quickly warns him, don't call him Deor Fluenti. That name won't bind him. Instead, he must use the true name, Deorsum. Carmen raises the ring, his voice trembling but firm. Deorsum, I will be your contractor. For a moment, it looks like everything has gone horribly wrong. The ceremony fails and Carmen is stabbed, or at least, that's what everyone thinks. But then, his body erupts with dark energy. The glow spreads, and that's the sign the contract worked. Carmen's right eye transforms into the contractor's eye, proof of the bond. And with that, Deorsum finally returns to his human form. Relief doesn't last long though, because more soldiers arrive, trying to block their escape. Yuli steps in, distracting them, but then the ground itself betrays them. The sand erupts, and a massive desert serpent bursts out. It speaks in the demon tongue, and since Yuli is a demon, she answers back. She commands it to carry them northbound, and the serpent obeys. Meanwhile, Iquali is piecing together his own puzzle. He realizes the crystal in the crown shattered the moment he devoured Reverend Custasa. Was that crystal actually Custasa's body? And why does it resemble Vincent's ring? Mycrawl, now fully healed, enters the scene and is stunned to see Iquali holding the crown. Iquali, ever the manipulator, announces that he killed his father, the former king. He spins a twisted tale. Vincent was a contractor, secretly manipulating the palace, silencing anyone who discovered the truth. And the demon Vincent contracted with? None other than Prince Deor Fluenti. Solaris, watching this unfold, knows Iquali is lying. But she hesitates. What if everyone around Iquali really is a demon? That fear keeps her silent. Meanwhile, Camille Fluenti, Deor's mother, is trapped in her chamber, encased in Vincent's ice. Soldiers try to break through, but their light magius can't melt it. Iquali keeps weaving his lies, framing everything to fit his plan. He declares that Deor has taken control of King Evangale, forcing him to slaughter his own people. And with that, Iquali crowns himself the new king of Evangale. Back with the party, Carmen is still reeling from what just happened. Yuli, though, is impressed. She even remarks how good he looks with the contractor eye. Carmen, however, is haunted by one question. Why did Deorsum turn into Invidia? Yuli promises to explain everything once Deorsum awakens. We find merchant leader Rukshar sitting with his servant when suddenly, his chest of curses begins to stir on its own. Rukshar knows exactly what this means. He can feel the Galian king's curse crawling across his skin. Yes, King Vincent Evangale. Remember that desert serpent? Turns out Vincent had tamed it long ago, and back then, the serpent cast a curse on Rukshar. Now the curse is showing itself. Scales start spreading across Rukshar's body. Every time the serpent moves, Rukshar's scales appear. And apparently, Rukshar and Vincent had a deal. So when the serpent stirred, Rukshar thought his compensation was finally coming. The servant, though, was exhausted and disappointed. Just as Rukshar slammed the table in frustration, the tea his servant had brewed for 11 hours spilled straight onto the ground. The poor servant, I'm sorry, dude. Back with our party, Deor finally wakes up, calling out for Rosalie. Yuli has to break the truth again. Rosalie is gone. Carmen, standing nearby, remembers he's now the contractor of his own prince. But he's still terrified because Deor isn't just Deor, he's Invidia. And let me tell you, if you thought season 1 was packed with plot twists, you haven't seen anything yet. Deor himself is shocked to learn he can transform into Invidia. That's when Yuli spills the truth. Of course he can. Deor is Invidia's original body. His true name? Ignis Invidia Deorsum. That's not just Invidia's name, it's Deor's name too. Now imagine the weight of this. Deor is exhausted, and it makes sense. He's carrying 3 identities at once. Deor, Ignis, and Invidia. All the same entity, but fractured. Carmen starts trembling, terrified that Deor might lose control again and attack them. Yuli reassures him it won't happen. Not now. Not with Carmen as his contractor. We also learn something crucial. Forcing a demon into a contract requires their corporeal form's identity, not their soul. Just then, Deorsum's demeanor shifts. His voice goes cold as he asks Yuli what else she knows. Yuli lies, saying she doesn't know much, only that Deor's true names are Ignis Invidia and Deorsum, and that Invidia is after him to reclaim its body. body. And then the twist. Without warning, Deor stabs Yuli. Or rather, Invidia does. Yuli tries to fight back, but Invidia is relentless. Every counter she throws is crushed, and in an instant, he slams her into the ground. Carmen, meanwhile, isn't even fully present. His mind drifts, almost like he's being pulled somewhere else. Invidia turns his focus back to Yuli, calling her name again and again, demanding to know what she really is. Then he drags her into the light, deadly for demons. Her body begins to burn, nearly destroyed, but even then she refuses to reveal anything. That's when Invidia remembers. He recalls her true name, Yuli Luxuria, and suddenly everything shifts, because Ignis knew her very well. Invidia presses her down into the sand, covering her with his body to shield her from the sunlight. And finally, Yuli breaks her silence. And of course, another twist. Yuli Luxuria wasn't just some demon ally. She was Ignis's fiancée. Back in the past, Ignis would send her letters, thinking that was enough. He assumed women delighted in receiving written words. But Yuli wanted more. She wanted his voice, his presence. She made it clear she wasn't just another figure in his life. She was her own person, unique, just as Ignis was unique. She compared humans to pendulums, swaying together in rhythm. But Ignis never followed the rhythm. His pendulum swung at its own tempo, steady even against endless swarms or overwhelming forces. And that's what she loved about him. Yuli believed that even if she were reborn in another world, she would find him again. And she would fall in love with him all over. Carmen suddenly finds himself in a golden space, shimmering and strange. Standing before him is Deor, but not the Deor he knows. This one is calmer, his eyes glowing blue, his presence steady. He explains that they're deep inside Carmen's mind, and that he himself is only a fragment, a hidden piece of Deor's soul. Carmen is confused, but Deor clarifies. The Deor outside is incomplete, holding only a fraction of his original soul. Invidia's darkness is slowly seeping into that fragment. This hidden Deor is here to guide Carmen. First lesson? The ring. Carmen had been keeping it tucked away in his pocket, but Deor insists he must wear it properly. Without it, control slips. A body without a soul becomes nothing more than an empty husk, vulnerable to darkness. Deor instructs him to place the ring on his thumb. Why the thumb? Because it's the branch of power. Vincent wore it on his index finger only because his magius was immense. Carmen's magius is limited, so the thumb will help him channel strength. Outside, Yuli and Invidia are burning under the god's light. Demons can't last long in that radiance. It destroys them. Deor tells Carmen he must shield them, protect their vessels. He even corrects Carmen's posture. Stand tall, chin steady, feel the strength in your body. And with his final words, he tells Carmen he's not weak. He must believe in himself. Carmen snaps back to reality. He grabs a blanket and rushes to help shield them. But what's funny is that Carmen suddenly manages to speak to the desert serpent in ancient language, asking it for help. The serpent, confused by the vague request, just tosses Carmen into the air. Like even Yuli was like, what in the world is happening right now? As for how Carmen could talk in ancient tongue, well, thanks to his meeting with that hidden fragment of Deor, he unlocked the ability. Once the serpent hurled him into the air, Carmen had a wild idea. He ordered Deorsum to catch him. And surprised, Deorsum obeyed. The moment they made contact, Carmen glimpsed Yuli's memories. And wow, those memories paint a picture. Back then, Yuli was picky, demanding Ignis's full attention whenever they were alone. She didn't want him distracted by anything else. Honestly, it gives off some serious Yandere vibes. But the plan worked. Deorsum calmed down, and Carmen managed to shield both him and Yuli from the burning sun. Then came the confrontation. Deorsum wanted to know why Yuli hadn't told him she was his fiancée. Yuli explained she only discovered it recently through Vincent's letter. Her tone shifted, though. She lashed out, saying why should she reveal such a thing to a man she once trusted and adored, who had now morphed into a detestable creature devouring humans. She went further, claiming she couldn't trust a child who couldn't control himself, insisting he wasn't the Ignis she once knew. She reminded him that the Ignis she loved never let frustration consume him so easily. He only showed negativity in dire, desperate situations, not in something as trivial as dealing with demons. Meanwhile, Carmen spoke with the serpent, explaining the situation. And from afar, villagers spotted the massive desert serpent. Welcome to Oasis Merchant Town, Flestican. Here, we learn about the deal between merchant leader Rukshar and Vincent. Vincent was supposed to send one of his daughters, but instead, he sent one of his sons. Rukshar, unimpressed, ordered his serpent to fetch our boy, and warned it to be cautious of the she-demon, Yuli. Apparently, the villagers already knew Yuli's identity as a demon, and they believed she had a taste for human men. Even from a distance, Yuli can sense the whispers. Someone gossiping about her, and she knows it. Deorsum, meanwhile, sits quietly, trying to process the flood of memories crashing into him. He apologizes to Yuli, realizing that because of him, she had to become a demon. Then the realization hits hard. If humans can turn into demons, then all those demons he fought to eliminate, they were once human too. That truth shakes him. Just then, Rukshar's servant arrives, raising the flag of Flestican. He greets them respectfully and escorts them toward the oasis. To reach Flestican, they must cross cross the stone tiles on foot. Desert reptiles can't travel across the stronghold stones. For Deorsum, the villagers even prepare umbrella carriers, fully aware of his constitution. Deorsum assumes Vincent must have told them about his demon nature, but that's not the case. Rukshar makes it clear. This isn't the deal he made with Vincent. He was promised one of Vincent's daughters, but instead, Vincent sent a son. In the desert, sun maladies are common, but Rukshar never expected one of Vincent's bloodline to suffer like this. Turns out Vincent never revealed Deorsum's true identity. Instead, he spread a rumor that Deor was simply allergic to sunlight. But Yuli? Her identity is no secret. The villagers know she's a demon, and she's famous on top of that. Rumors say she's the demon woman who devours the kings of Evangale. Yuli herself admits she likes to eat men, though she's picky about her meals. That's when Deorsum's demeanor shifts. His eyes lock onto Yuli, and through telepathy, yes, telepathy, he gives her a death stare. He demands to know if the rumors are true. Has she been eating Evangale kings? Is that why every king of Galeus mysteriously disappears after ruling? Yuli is stunned. Telepathy at this stage? It takes years of training, yet Deorsum has mastered it in days. She's shaken by his growth. Deorsum presses further. Back at the Galeus border, when she shielded him, did she use a human body? Yuli, impressed but cornered, replies carefully. She insists she didn't kill the human. The body she used was already dead, slain by another spell. But she avoids admitting the full truth, knowing the consequences. As for the kings, she explains she only killed the corrupted rulers of Evangale. Every last one except Vincent. He was different. To prove her words, she invokes Dante, the demon censor. Dante knows the truth. And now we shift to Dante. He's still on the run from soldiers. Thanks to his ability to reduce his magius to almost nothing, keeps him hidden. In his hand, he carries a ring that contains a fragment of Deor Fluente's soul. The ring Dante carries, it was given to him by none other than Deor himself when they were kids. Back then, Deor's memories hadn't been erased yet. Remember, he was still under his father's control. He noticed Dante relied heavily on his magius and warned that overusing it could kill him. So Deor entrusted him with a ring containing a fragment of his soul, a safeguard to help Dante push beyond his limits. Every individual has a magius bank tied directly to their soul. In dire situations, they can convert their soul into magius. But the cost is steep. Using one's soul shortens their lifespan. With Deor's fragment inside the ring, Dante could tap into more magius without burning himself out. That's why Dante knows Deor is still alive. The ring responds, proving Deor escaped the kingdom. And Dante isn't wandering aimlessly. He's following an objective given to him by Deor himself. His path leads him to Carmen's family. When Carmen's sister sees Dante, she collapses in fear, thinking he's there to kill them because of Carmen's actions. But Dante reassures her. Everything is fine. Her brother is with the prince now. Deor tasked Dante with protecting Carmen's family. Carmen's father, though blind, senses the truth. He feels the enormous dark red miasma spreading across the kingdom. He knows it's Invidia. Soldiers stationed at the border are watching closely, tracking its movements. Then their new king arrives, Equali. He uses the lightning rune against Invidia, but it's not an attack. It's a signal, a way to communicate while pretending in front of the soldiers. Equali tells Invidia that its vessel, our boy Deor, is heading toward Nordhound. Just then, one of the soldiers prepares to strike Invidia. The soldiers are on edge, panic spreading like wildfire. They know if they attack Invidia now, it's over. None of them would survive. One of the guards steps in, calming the group, reminding them the king ordered no engagement. Slowly, the panic settles. Equali keeps his mask on, assuring them that Invidia has no interest in their kingdom anymore. But Equali can't truly mimic human emotion. His words sound hollow, and some soldiers begin to suspect the truth. Maybe their king is a demon. As Equali moves among them, he knows it himself. He can't blend in the way Deorsum does. The soldiers are easy to manipulate because they're trained to follow orders blindly. But if they thought like Deor, if they questioned, if they resisted, things would play out very differently. Equali approaches Helen, asking for the situation. The court is in chaos, nobles blaming each other, pointing fingers, accusing one another of being demons. In the end, suspicion falls on Princess Solaris. Since the former king adopted her, they claim she's more suspicious than anyone else. Antonio steps forward to defend her. He reminds them that his father adopted Solaris from the church, and the church is protected by the gods. But that only shifts suspicion onto him and his brother. If their father was a contractor, then surely the offspring of a traitor are suspect too. That's when Equali steps in, twisting the knife. He asks the nobles directly, will they disapprove of him as well, since he too is a son of the former king? When Equali asked about his mother, Claudia had withdrawn, choosing to stay in her chambers. That gave him the perfect opening to manipulate the court. He challenged their paranoia, asking why they should assume anyone here was a demon. He cleverly redirected suspicion, suggesting perhaps the only demon in the royal family was Deor. To back it up, he reminded them that Deor was the only child kept locked inside the castle his entire life, while the rest of the siblings were free to roam outside. Just like that, Equali seized control of the court. support. But Claudia, alone in her room, was shaken. Moments ago, she had seen her son smile at her demon son. Memories flooded back, one in particular where Equali had taken control of a noble child. She was horrified at what her twisted child had done. He manipulated the boy's sense of agency, playing with his physical mind. Equali insisted the child felt no pain, wasn't aware, and wouldn't suffer any lasting harm. Claudia, devastated, tried to correct him, urging him to respect humans, even in his curiosity. But Equali, being a demon, couldn't grasp why such actions were considered monstrous. Now, in the present, Claudia wonders if she created a monster. Worse still, her husband was slain by her own son. Meanwhile, Equali continued weaving his schemes. He approached nobles, urging them to dismantle their current houses and support the villagers instead. Then, something unexpected happened. The soul of Vincent touched him, casting a spell in ancient tongue. At the same time, Rukshar's curse began spreading faster. Rukshar, feeling the scales crawl across his skin, thought the curse had accelerated because of our boy's arrival. He suspected Vincent had sent his son here to settle their old score. Deorsum reacts instantly, immobilizing Rukshar before he can even touch him. Rukshar, impressed, realizes this young prince has reflexes far too sharp for someone supposedly afflicted with sun malady. That alone raises suspicion. Rukshar isn't naive. He's known Vincent since they were children, and he remembers how Vincent always hid damning secrets, especially when it came to demons. Rukshar frees himself by throwing a dagger, and suddenly the two are locked in combat. Deor gets cornered, nearly falling into the pool, but he dodges and touches the strange blue ground to test if it's water or solid. Rukshar notices this immediately, mocking him. What good are splashes of water against a sword? But Deorsum sees through it. Rukshar isn't reckless, he's calculated. He lured Deor here deliberately, studying his reactions. Finally, Rukshar halts the fight, revealing it was all a test. He wanted to see if Deor could help deal with the demon plaguing the oasis village. Just then, a villager rushes in with grim news. Elliot has been swallowed by a demon. This oasis is cursed, haunted by a demon that kills any man it sees, eerily similar to Yuli's reputation in the past. We shift to that demon now. It has just finished its meal and is thrilled, because with Deor and Yuli entering the oasis, it believes it can devour them both and grow even stronger. Rukshar lays out the situation clearly for Deor and Yuli. The demon haunting the oasis devours every man it encounters, but strangely, it never touches women. They had sent their strongest women to fight it, but after witnessing the demon's grotesque feeding, they fled in horror, declaring it too vile to approach. The oasis women couldn't contend with it, but Rukshar points out that women from Evangale are born with stronger magius. That's why he struck a deal with Vincent, to send one of his daughters. Just then, two girls bring Carmen into the scene, finally dressed properly. To justify his presence, the party lies, claiming Carmen is Yuli's contractor. Rukshar turns his gaze on Deor, asking how many humans he has eaten. The question hangs heavy. Could Rukshar know the truth? Deorsum meets his stare without flinching, his gaze locked and unfazed. Rukshar smiles. Bingo. He suspects Deor is a demon, though he isn't fully certain yet. One of the girls presses Rukshar, asking when he'll rid the village of the demon. Rukshar declares today is the day. He explains that Prince Flueni will be the one to take it down, since he has the capacity to do so. The girl is thrilled, noting that intelligent demons are far stronger. Rukshar continues, pointing out they already have an intelligent demon in front of them, Yuli. He warns that intelligent demons are the most dangerous, because they have personalities, can morph into humans, and blend in flawlessly. His words are sharp, deliberately poking at Deor, waiting for him to slip and reveal his identity. But then, something heavier settles over the scene. Rukshar feels it, an ominous presence. The gods themselves are here, and their gaze is fixed squarely on our boy. Rukshar knows the gods are here, ready to curse anyone who dares learn the secret of demons. But he's baffled. Why are they fixated on Deorsum? At first, he thinks it's because Deor is a demon, but then he remembers. The gods despise demons, they don't concern themselves with them. So why him? One of the girls asks the forbidden question. Where do demons come from? Rukshar warns her. He knows the answer, but if he speaks it aloud, the gods will curse everyone who hears. He asks her again if she's certain she wants to know. Deorsum steps in, saying he already knows a little. Yuli leans forward, wanting to hear more. Carmen, too, is curious. Maybe this knowledge could help Deorsum. Rukshar orders his servant, Sahorn, to guide away anyone unwilling to risk the curse. But Rukshar notices something strange. Deor isn't flinching, even with the gods pressing down. In fact, the gods seem to be forcing him to stay. That alone unsettles Rukshar. Then Rukshar begins to reveal the truth. The birth of a demon requires a living human. That human morphs into a demon, but only if three conditions are met. First, they must lose all emotions. Second, they must tune out their senses, cutting off awareness of their environment and even their own body. Finally, they must cling to a singular purpose. It doesn't matter what it is, but without purpose, the transformation cannot happen. Yuli listens, remembering her own past. She knows this is true. This is exactly how she became became a demon. But the gods are enraged. Their fury locks onto Deorsum alone. Suddenly, he feels a strange power behind him and instinctively lashes out with his miasma. Rukshar is stunned. Deor just defied the gods. And then comes the shift. Deorsum's eyes turn blue. That means Ignis is in control. He turns to Rukshar, cold and merciless, and declares, "I'll be eating you." Ignis lets loose his miasma, overwhelming Rukshar and devouring him completely. Sawhorn, quick to react, throws up a shield of light magius to protect the villagers from the chaos. Yuli, horrified, thinks madness has consumed Deor, but then she sees it. Those piercing blue eyes. It's Ignis in control. Ignis bolts, fleeing from the gods whose gaze still hunts him. Yuli transforms and follows, determined not to let him face this alone. Behind them, Rukshar screams blindly, unable to see, calling out for answers. His voice echoes with desperation as he cries out to someone named Phaex. Ignis, however, is lost in uncertainty. He knows the gods are still searching for him, and he doesn't know how to escape their wrath. And then, as if the tension wasn't already unbearable, the true threat reveals itself. The demon plaguing the oasis finally shows up. With Ignis and Yuli standing in its path, it believes it has found the perfect feast to grow stronger. Instead of fighting, Ignis does something shocking. He willingly enters the demon's belly. The demon, thrilled, believes Ignis has surrendered because he is weak. Yet moments later, as more humans arrive, the demon feels something wrong. It vanishes instantly. In its place, Deor and Rukshar reappear, but Deor's body is cloaked in the demon's dark miasma. Ignis has devoured the demon from within. Rukshar notices something else. The gods are gone. Their gaze has lifted. Yuli rushes to carry Ignis, but Rukshar's mind drifts back to the past, to Vincent. He remembers Vincent asking him a familiar question. If you had to choose between saving your family or the citizens of the oasis, which would you choose? It's the same question Vincent once asked his son Deor. Rukshar resisted, saying he wasn't a ruler, but he answered anyway, he would save both. Vincent dismissed it as cheating. Rukshar then turned the question back on Vincent. Now, in the present, Rukshar finally understands Vincent's answer. Vincent chose to sacrifice his own son to defeat Invidia and protect the kingdom. Watching Invidia merge with Ignis's body, Rukshar realizes the truth of what Vincent did with Invidia's vessel. Well, it seems more plot twists, huh? We shift back to the battle where multiple kings united against Invidia. Vincent fought at the front lines, stopping Invidia from spreading its miasma across the battlefield. When the dust settled, Rukshar approached him. On the ground lay a corpse, the original body of Invidia. Vincent hadn't truly defeated Invidia. He only managed to separate it from its soul. Rukshar urged him to destroy the body, but Vincent refused. He insisted they must preserve it. Why? Because it was the only way to annihilate Invidia completely. If the body was destroyed, the remnants of its soul would linger in the world, eventually possessing a new vessel. Vincent told Rukshar to spread the word that Invidia's body was destroyed, but that its soul remained. He explained that remnants of the coup still lingered in his kingdom, and they would likely use Invidia to sow chaos out of spite. Vincent couldn't explain further. The gods would curse Rukshar to death, just as they had cursed Vincent. Now, back in the present, Rukshar finally understands Vincent's plan. He smiles grimly, realizing Vincent was a true madman. But the twists don't stop. Even though Deor devoured the demon that preyed on men, that demon somehow survived, now in human form. Deor, in control, is stabbed by the demon, which tries to seize his body to grow stronger. But then the demon itself is stabbed by Invidia. Deor, shaken, begins asking questions. Why must demons eat each other? Why must they kill? Would it not be better if they worked together, if they controlled the demons inside them instead of destroying one another? And in that moment, Deor finally understands. Memories long buried resurface. The past of the imperial prince Ignis Invidia Deorsum, and the true origins of demons. Just a quick heads up. From this chapter onward, the entire story flips upside down. Like seriously, you have no idea what's coming. Another note though, this story was first released in 2022. Back then, the author was hospitalized many times due to health issues, so you might think season 2 was rushed. But in reality, it turned out quite the opposite, as you'll soon see. Many years ago, Ignis's mother was about to give birth. A shadowy shape drifted in the air, then slipped inside her. And with that, our boy Ignis was born. Back in an era where demons didn't exist yet, an infant with sharp blue eyes entered the world. His name, Ignis Invidia Deorsum. The royal court was stunned. The newborn prince's intellect was unmatched. He was sharp, passionate in his studies, but his brilliance led him to isolation. He distanced himself from his peers, even from the court, because of their corrupt ideals. Manipulating the masses to hate rivals, distracting the weary from crimes, hiding truths behind half-lies. The court overflowed with nefarious deeds. But Ignis didn't see them as hateful. He saw them as products of their environment, and he wanted to force change. But then came the coup d'etat. Those crushed under the court's apathy rose up, bringing grief to Ignis and the peaceful aristocrats. The anguished prince was beaten, thrown into a prison cell, his voice silenced. Inside that cell, Ignis was visited by the gods. They were shocked he could see them. Fascinated by Ignis, disgusted by humanity, the gods cast a spell upon the land. Humans twisted into monsters. In other words, the gods created demons. Keep this in mind, it's crucial. The demons began devouring humans. Ignis, watching, quickly figured out how to become one himself. Once transformed, he consumed every demon he encountered. But each time, his soul warped further, his consciousness corrupted. And eventually, he became Invidia. Yet, a fragment of his soul remained hidden inside Invidia, a safeguard to keep him from total corruption. And now, that fragment has resurfaced, fully awake. Back in the present, Ignis devours the Oasis demon and settles into his body. His memories flood back, his past, his purpose, to consume his other half and every demon that remains. And just then, his other half, Invidia, enters the scene. We cut back to Equali and Microl, standing there as their soldiers watch Invidia drift beyond the kingdom's borders. Equali throws a heavy question at Microl. What does it mean to be a king? Microl hesitates, then answers the obvious. A king must rule and protect his people. But Equali laughs that off. To him, a king isn't a servant of his people. It's an all-powerful being who does whatever he pleases. And to prove his twisted point, he unleashes lightning magius and wipes out his own soldiers. Yes, he really did that. Remember, Equali is a demon. And trust me, you don't even know the half of what's coming next. Now, back to our boy Deor. Rukshar eases up and says, I've heard from Vincent that you wish to be king. Deor doesn't want to be just another ruler sitting on a throne. He dreams bigger. He wants a world where every king is strong, every leader capable, and together they build true peace and happiness. A vision where they aim for stars beyond imagination, growing side by side. But then Deor's tone shifts. With a dark smile, he tells Rukshar, and for my own goals, no human will interfere. That wasn't arrogance. It was a warning. Rukshar, being human, feels it in his gut. He knows digging into Deor's past or motives would put his life at risk. So he doesn't pry. Instead, he pledges his support, offering Deor gold and weapons for the journey to Nordhound. Being loaded with resources made Deor a target. Bandits came for him, but before they could strike, 2 Nordhound escorts cut them down. Thanks to them, Deor and his party safely reached the kingdom of Nordhound. And here's where things get interesting. Deor meets Raksha, Nordhound's female king, who turns out to be a contractor. One of his escorts? None other than Raksha's daughter, Princess Dawn. She can't speak, but don't let that fool you. She's one of the fiercest fighters in the kingdom. Deor trains with Dawn, and he's drawn to her resilience. Over time, he even manages to defeat her in training. Instead of pushing her away, that only makes Dawn cling to him more. She's bright, determined, and honestly kind of adorable. Deor can't help but be captivated by her. Eventually, he decides to marry her. And when word spreads that the Prince of Evangelion is courting Dawn, every kingdom hears about it, including Equali. Oh, and let's not forget, Equali's frost curse is getting worse. That's the lingering effect of the spell Vincent's soul cast on him earlier. So when Equali hears about Deor's marriage, he doesn't just shrug it off. He smirks, because to him, this is the perfect chance. He believes he can finally merge Deor with Invidia. While Invidia was storming toward Nordhound in search of its vessel, something clicked in its memory. It remembered that moment when Equali struck it with magius during its hunt for a body. Equali didn't just strike it, he slipped something inside. Invidia didn't care at the time, but now, that little move is about to pay off. Because just like the crown's crystal once controlled Deor, Equali now has the power to control Invidia. Yeah, this is the next stage of his bigger plan. Unrest is bubbling inside Galeus. Whispers spread through the walls. Rumors that Equali has been killing soldiers who weren't loyal. His explanation? Those soldiers were pawns of the former king, loyal to a man who himself was loyal to a demon. To Equali, they were objects. And he wasn't done. He ordered his men to capture Camille Fluenti, Deor's mother. But Vincent's ice blocked every attempt. They couldn't break through to reach her. Down in the royal corridors, tucked away in a secret chamber, a group of royals, aristocrats, and soldiers gathered to talk about Equali's actions. Hess, the former king's brother, spoke up first. He warned them, Equali can't be trusted anymore. And he reminded them of one crucial fact. Vincent only ever uses his frost curse against someone trying to kill. That's when the unexpected happened. Camille Fluenti herself fell from the ceiling. And even more shocking, she revealed that her son is Invidia's body. She wasn't some mystical figure, just a human mother searching for the demon child she gave birth to. Things are about to get spicy, and trust me, it only gets hotter from here. Let's rewind. Back to the past, when Camille gave birth to Deor. In fact, she gave birth to Ignis. From the very beginning, Ignis was inside Deor's body. As Ignis grew, he introduced himself to Vincent as Ignis Invidia Deorsum. He even thanked Vincent for separating him from his corrupted soul. Remember when Vincent defeated Invidia and split its soul from its body? That's when he placed Ignis inside his son, Deor. Dante was there too. Ignis knew Vincent's plan, to raise him so that one day he could take down his other half, Invidia. So Ignis stayed hidden, conserving his energy, tucked away inside Der Fluenti. Back to the present. Der kept training, with Yuli watching closely. She wanted to talk to him about Vincent's true plan. But right in the middle of training, the moment Invidia reached Nordhound's borders, Der lost control. His demon form burst out for everyone to see. Vincent's real plan was to use Raksha, the Nordhound king, to completely seal Der away. That's right, Vincent was ready to sacrifice his own son to destroy Invidia. But don't jump to hating Vincent yet. You don't know the full picture. Raksha entered the scene and saw it with her own eyes. Der Fluenti, a demon, losing control. And as if that wasn't enough chaos, Invidia was sweeping across the desert at terrifying speed. Eventually, it reached the Nordhound training grounds. And there, it finally found what it had been searching for all along, its body. Miasma swept across Nordhound, choking the kingdom and killing countless citizens. The nightmare was real, and panic spread like wildfire, even reaching the walls of Galeus. From afar, everyone could see Invidia's monstrous presence, feel its suffocating miasma pressing down on them. Soldiers trembled, but Equali stood tall, assuring them, "Don't fear. Invidia won't harm us from this distance. Prepare for its arrival." Bold words, but Equali had no idea what Raksha was truly capable of. Raksha carried a terrifying gift, the ability to seal anything away, even a demon, at the cost of her own body. Determined to end the massacre, she summoned the demon she had contracted. Now pay attention, this demon wasn't cloaked in darkness. Its energy glowed golden. That's not just a color choice. It means something big, and if it doesn't click now, trust me, it will later. Raksha's sealing power required her contracted demon's strength, but there was a deal involved. That demon struck a bargain with Yuli. Dur's life would be spared, but hers would be sacrificed. And Yuli accepted. That's a fiancé for you, willing to give everything to keep him alive, even though Deor chose Dawn. Yuli remembered how she always wanted Ignis, Dur's true self, to stand beside her. Even if she couldn't have him as her husband, she'd still protect him. The seal was cast. Invidia, Raksha, and Yuli vanished together, swallowed by the sealing ritual. Dur too disappeared in the process. To the world, the nightmare was gone. Peace returned, or so everyone thought. Years passed, and Dur was declared dead. Yet the truth? Our boy Dur was alive. He was hiding, unseen by the world, his existence known only to one person, Dante. Dur lived in the shadows, eating demons in secret, far from the eyes of ordinary people. Villagers whispered about a mysterious masked man who appeared in different places, wiping out demons wherever he went. His identity was a mystery, but his fame spread quickly. He saved countless lives, yet never revealed who he was. As for the irony, while everyone praised the masked man, Dur stayed hidden, because his past as a demon was known across every kingdom. No one would trust him if they knew the truth. One day, after saving 2 individuals, they approached him with smiles, thanking him for their lives. But then they added how demons were vile creatures, never realizing the man who saved them was one of those very beings. Dur kept silent, his mask hiding the truth. Meanwhile, Equali's reign grew darker. His soldiers feared him more with each passing day. He slaughtered unloyal men and aristocrats, earning the title of the gluttonous king. He consumed the best of what the kingdom had to offer, hoarding everything for himself, never sharing. But resistance was brewing. Hess, Vincent's younger brother, formed a small party with Solaris. Their mission? To uncover the truth about Equali and confirm if he was truly a demon. And yes, Dawn was there too. Hess, however, couldn't resist throwing shade at Dur, claiming he was Invidia all along. He even suggested they should seek out the masked man for help, not knowing that the masked man was Dur himself. And then the tension snapped. A demon appeared behind Hess, larger, stronger than the usual shadows. This one was raised by Microl, who had become a contractor, a puppet under Equali's control. The demon lunged, ready to strike. Dawn stepped forward, prepared to fight, but before she could, Dur intervened. He cut the demon down, swift and decisive. His eyes met Dawn's, and with calm confidence he greeted her. "Good afternoon." Dawn was caught completely off guard. Her cheeks flushed red. Her husband was here. Dur slammed the ground, unleashing his miasma. The force tore through the demon with ease, but the smoke was so thick no one could see what was happening inside. Through the haze, Solaris spotted something else, Dante. Alive. Dante explained he had been traveling alongside the masked man, purging demons wherever they appeared. The crowd praised this mysterious figure, celebrating his heroism, never suspecting the masked man was Dur himself. Only Dawn recognized him. His peculiar eyes left a mark on her, a presence she could never mistake. Villagers gathered, showering the masked man with gratitude, marveling at his strength. Yet their words carried irony. They spoke of the former king harboring a demon named Prince Dur Fluenti, a creature that consumed countless lives. And here they were, unknowingly thanking that very demon. Dur didn't care much. Makes sense. These people didn't know the full truth. What weighed on him was something else, the fate of his mother. Now we shift to Camille. She was watching Microl closely. Just then Helen, Hess's daughter and a member of the royal family, confirmed her suspicions. Microl had been smuggling demons into the kingdom under Equali's orders. The tension rose when the king himself entered. Mykrol froze. He knew Equali was unpredictable, and at any moment, he could be devoured like the rest of his followers. Equali didn't bother hiding his demonic nature from Mykrol. He studied him, analyzing his reactions, deciding whether to eat him or keep him alive. Helen too realized the truth. Equali was indeed a demon. And then, the scene twisted even further. The gods arrived. Now brace yourselves, because this is the curveball of all curveballs. No one knew what Equali knew. The gods that humans revered, prayed to, and worshipped, they weren't gods at all. They were demons. Yes, you heard that right. The gods were actually demons. But hold on, don't wander off yet. Because believe it or not, this isn't even the biggest curveball. The gods, though now we know they're demons, turned to Equali and asked why he hadn't eaten Mykrol yet. To them, Equali was just a small demon, nothing compared to their power. But Equali stayed calm, showing no fear. His answer? I haven't discerned Mykrol's true qualities yet. That caught their attention. The gods were impressed. Equali only devoured those whose true nature he understood. Even though the gods were demons, not all of them were as malicious as humans believed. Some carried different intentions. But then they attacked, covering the castle in ice magius. The sight was eerily familiar. It mirrored Vincent's frost curse. Back with Solaris and her party, she quickly took command. She ordered her troops to rescue survivors and strengthen defenses, preparing for the next wave. Then she turned to the masked man, asking for his aid against the demons lurking inside the kingdom. She explained how the palace military fractured after Equali took the throne, with rumors spreading that he himself was a demon and his allies were contractors. The masked man agreed to help. Solaris led the group deeper into the palace, hunting demons hidden in the dark crevices. Dawn, worried, approached her husband. Deor reassured her. Yes, he was a demon, but he only consumed other demons. And if the rumors were true, then eventually, he would have to consume Equali. Meanwhile, Equali caught Camille spying on him inside the king's quarters. He asked her what she was doing there, and whether she was alone. But Helen was with her, hiding in silence. One sound, and she'd be discovered too. Camille stayed silent. Equali's eyes narrowed, and he ordered Mykrol to search the room. Problem was, Mykrol wasn't exactly skilled at sensing. Equali couldn't wrap his head around it. How could Camille even be here? Only successors to the throne were supposed to know about this place. Camille finally spoke, throwing the truth at him. Many know you're a demon. So why is a demon reigning as king over humans? To eat all of us? Equali smiled. And his answer? Exactly that. A king who is a demon, ruling above humans, picking out those he finds delicious. Now, I know some of you are starting to hate this guy, but spoiler alert, you still don't know the full picture. Then Equali revealed something chilling. He had already discovered their small group hiding in the village. Helen heard this and panicked. Her father and the others were in danger. She bolted, leaving Camille behind. Helen's father, Hess, was the first to realize Equali's plan. But Helen's desperate run gave Equali exactly what he needed. She led him straight to Hess. And Hess was consumed. Helen kept running until she reached the party. Breathless, she spilled everything. Equali had discovered their group, and his plan was to consume everyone, villagers included. The revelation left them stunned, unable to believe the truth. And then the moment of collision. Equali approached, ready to devour them all. But standing in his way was none other than Deor. Equali froze, stunned. Deor was alive. Deor stomped down, crushing the miasma Equali was controlling. Helen didn't realize she was being stalked by a demon until it was too late. Her father's magius vanished completely, and her instincts screamed at her to disband the coalition before disaster struck. She remembered Equali's chilling words, his plan to devour humans hiding in the village. And it was true. Demons were already waiting, ready to pounce. Chaos erupted. Our boy Deor jumped straight into the fray, tearing through those demons with ease. Dante fought alongside him, providing support, and together they massacred the ambushers. Not a single demon survived. Mykrol, sensing the demons vanish one by one, reported it to Equali. But Equali only smiled. Then he turned to Camille, telling her that her son Deor was here. And without hesitation, he stabbed her. His twisted logic. If her son was a demon, maybe she was one too. But the truth was cruel. Camille was just a normal human. Her body collapsed, blood soaking the floor. Camille lay on the edge of death, her memories flooding back. She wasn't born into royalty. She was just a poor woman from the slums. One day, King Vincent passed through those streets, traveling discreetly with a covered bag in hand. Few nobles ever set foot in the slums, which made it the perfect place to move unseen. As Vincent walked, the bag slipped from his grasp and fell before Camille. She stood over it, and that's when something dark stirred inside. In an instant, the shadow leapt into her womb. Vincent hadn't expected this. Inside that bag were the remains of Invidia's body, hidden away. And now, now it had chosen Camille. Wearily, Vincent made a decision. He took Camille in as his consort, a move that shocked the palace. No one expected the king to marry a commoner from the slums. Soon after, Camille gave birth to a boy. Vincent watched him closely, wary but also hopeful, because he knew this child's body was no ordinary vessel. It was the body of the ancient prince Ignis, a prince with a golden heart and a silver mind. That day, Ignis revealed himself. He told Vincent he would remain hidden within this body, the body of Deor. He warned them, when the time came, the gods would make their move to find him. And then came the ultimate revelation. Ignis told them the gods were demons themselves. He cautioned Vincent and Camille to be careful, because the gods would be hunting them too. Back in the present, Equali watched coldly as Camille's soul slipped away. But then, something unexpected happened. The gods intervened. They made Camille their contractor. Furious, they demanded answers from Equali. Why had he killed the one who knew of Ignis? The gods weren't just watching, they were desperate, actively searching for him. To tighten their grip, they forced a contract with Camille, healing her wounds and commanding Equali to use her as bait to lure Ignis. As a reminder, Equali already knew Ignis was Deor, our boy, but he kept that knowledge buried deep, playing silent. Equali spoke in the god's language, concealing the conversation from Camille. But something about the sound unsettled her. It scratched at her ears, tickled with familiarity. It didn't feel alien, it felt human. That realization hit her hard. Wait, if gods are demons, were they once human? Could humans become gods? Are the gods themselves human? The gods pressed her further, demanding she reveal what she knew about Ignis and where he was. Camille understood she couldn't escape them. They were already seizing control of her mind. Meanwhile, the masked man had finished clearing out the demons in the area. He explained he'd continue offering his aid, but Dawn couldn't hold back any longer. She signed to him. Are you Deor Fluenti? And honestly, what kind of question is that? Just ask. Are you my husband? Deor signed back. Yes, but keep it secret. He knew if the others discovered he was a demon, fear and distrust would drive them to kill him. Dawn, however, wasn't shaken. She signed back with confidence. You'll be fine. Then, with eagerness, she added that Yuli was safe, being cared for by Rakshar. Deor froze. Yuli, alive? Didn't she sacrifice herself in that deal with Raksha's demon to keep him safe? Even Deor couldn't believe it. Dawn insisted he hurry to Yuli, who had been waiting for his return with good news. Now we shift to Yuli. She's sitting with Rakshar, and oh boy, her beauty has transformed. Her skin and hair shimmered gold, and I'm sure you've already pieced it together. That golden glow? It means something big. When Deor returned to the oasis village, Yuli immediately sensed him. Rakshar was stunned. Deor was alive. Yuli, eager to see him, finally revealed how she managed to survive. Remember Raksha's demon ability? It could seal anything away. For humans, sacrifice meant instant death. But Yuli wasn't human. She was a demon. Instead of dying, she fought back. After years of confinement, she consumed the golden demon that had exchanged her life for Deor's. That act brought her back into the human realm. Searching for Deor, she encountered Rakshar instead. Everyone was entranced by her presence, but Rakshar felt uneasy. Her aura was familiar, almost divine. Turns out Raksha's demon had ascended to godhood somehow. By absorbing it, Yuli became something new, a demon who was also a god. When Deor approached, he asked about her new appearance. Yuli smirked and said, I know why the gods are after you, Deorsum. The truth spilled out. Ignis had stolen something from the gods. That's why they were hunting him so desperately. The moment Deor heard this, Ignis's soul surged forward, taking control. And we dive into the past. Ignis, as a young prince, spent his days buried in books, chasing knowledge. One day, a unique book caught his eye. Its writings were ancient, indecipherable. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't read it. Then little Yuli Luxuria appeared, energetic, cheerful, asking what he was reading. Ignis admitted he couldn't understand the letters. Yuli urged him to step outside, to enjoy the weather instead of locking himself away. Her innocent smile struck him. Ignis pondered deeply. Humans were ephemeral, short-lived, fragile. They lived, reproduced, built communities, fought wars, found love, and then vanished. But was that all? He believed there had to be something greater, something beyond human comprehension. He knew he couldn't answer all his questions within a single lifespan. So he devoted his life to studying the world, the gods, everything imaginable. Among his discoveries was the concept of immortality. Eventually, Ignis deciphered that ancient book, and in doing so, he saw the gods. In that moment, he longed for immortality, believing it would allow him to learn everything and support his people. This is another curveball for this story. The reason the gods are hunting Ignis is because he literally stole their immortality. Yuli's excitement grew. Her goal was clear: remain by Ignis's side for eternity. She urged him, join me, become a god with me, and you'll never have to hide from those other gods again. But her eagerness turned into a threat. Now that she was a god, she could expose his whereabouts to the others. Our boy didn't hesitate. He dropped her threat flat, declaring, My name is Deor. The Ignis you once knew is dead. I am Deor Fluenti, the one who accepted Ignis's memories. Yuli's face fell. Disappointment washed over her. From the moment she became a demon, her only purpose had been to find Ignis. Curious, Deor pressed her. How did you manage to become a god? Dawn and Rukshar, listening nearby, were stunned by the conversation. Yuli dodged the question, mocking him. You, who stole the god's immortality, don't even know how we become gods. Then she tried to bargain. If she revealed her secret, would he tell her how he stole immortality? The tension was thick. Yuli laughed at the paradox. Deor couldn't die even if she killed him, and if she tried to kill the gods, they would perish easily. She found it amusing, wondering what fate awaited him if the gods caught him. Deor cut through her amusement. If they find me, they'll kill me, eat me, and then target everyone else, including you. Finally, Yuli revealed her truth. She became a god after consuming Raksha's golden demon. But even she didn't fully understand how demons ascended, nor how that golden demon had reached godhood. Her eyes then locked onto Dawn. Jealousy flickered. Deor had chosen Dawn over her. Deor, steady, agreed to share how he stole immortality if Yuli assisted him. With that, Yuli joined his mission to eradicate demons in Galeus. Together, they rallied soldiers from the Oasis and Nordhound. But Deor didn't expect the next enemy to be his own mother. Camille, bound as a contractor to the gods, unleashed her attack. Deor couldn't fight back, not because Camille was his mother, but because he could feel the gods closing in, searching for him. So he let Yuli step in, distracting them. While Yuli clashed with Camille, Deor tried to capture her, but the gods pulled back, startled by Yuli's presence. They retreated into the palace, taking Camille with them. When the gods returned to Equali, their fury was clear. Yuli, once just a small demon, now stood as a god like them. Equali, however, wasn't shaken. From the very beginning, he had never feared these so-called gods. With a cold face, he asked if they wanted his support. The gods knew something dangerous. If Equali discovered their mortality, he would kill them all without hesitation. Sure, they could eat Equali, but fear not at them. They dreaded the possibility that he could consume them from within. And fear, human emotion, weakens demons. In Equali's presence, their power slipped away. The gods demanded Equali hand over the humans he kept captive, claiming they needed more power. And yes, remember Hess's party, Solaris and the others? They were being held underground. Solaris was horrified to learn the truth. The gods were demons. Equali confronted them, explaining that demons consume other demons to grow stronger, to ascend into gods. Just like humans devour each other metaphorically, trampling, fighting, clawing for power, until one rises as king. And then, out of nowhere, Equali was stabbed. Not by a blade, but by a soul. The soul of none other than King Vincent himself. So wait, does that mean Vincent is alive? Well, looks like we'll need just 2 more chapters to find out. The reason Vincent's soul lingered was because of the curse he had placed on Equali before his death. Meanwhile, Antonio's earrings weren't just ornaments, they were runes. Using the magius stored inside them, he freed himself, then released his younger brother Domenico. He explained that their father was gone, and what they were seeing was only his spirit, bound by the curse. Antonio believed the spirit couldn't hear them, but he was wrong. Once everyone was freed, they began escaping the prison chamber. Solaris stayed behind, staring at her father's spirit. The spirit turned to her, urging her to go. Outside, the party was immediately surrounded by Equali's loyal soldiers. They tried to explain that Equali was a tyrant conspiring with demons, but things only got worse. The gods themselves appeared, controlling Camille. Back with Yuli, she informed Rukshar and the others that Camille was still alive, but bound as a contractor to the gods. Rukshar was baffled. He thought only demons could form contracts. Yuli corrected him. Not if the gods forced someone into it. That realization hit hard. The gods weren't just supporting Equali, they were backing the demons too. Rukshar wanted to dig deeper, but Yuli stopped him cold. If you delve further, you'll be cursed with knowledge you can't escape. And then came another revelation. Yuli turned to Dawn. Isn't that right? She asked. The truth spilled out. Dawn couldn't speak because the gods had cursed her. Yuli, consumed by jealousy, mocked her. A useless human, unable to cast spells or wield magius. Her bitterness was clear. She couldn't understand why Deorsum was so infatuated with Dawn when she herself had sacrificed everything for him. Now guys, it's time to close out this incredible story. For this last chapter, we only got sketches because back in 2023, the author, who was also the artist, faced serious physical and mental health struggles. He couldn't continue any further. But don't worry, he wrapped it up perfectly, leaving us with one final, jaw-dropping curveball. To understand why Princess Dawn was cursed, we need to dive into her past. Dawn was a special child. She could see the gods for what they truly were. And for that forbidden knowledge, she was cursed. The priests told her to seek the eyes of the blue god. Only someone with those eyes could cure her curse, the inability to speak. And Dawn found that person, our boy Deor. Or should I say Ignis? At this point, they're one and the same. Dawn believed Deor was a disciple of the blue god, capable of lifting her curse. Meanwhile, Equali broke free of Vincent's curse and devoured his spirit, confining him completely. Then he discovered the gods weren't immortal and killed them. He continued consuming corrupt, injured, and weak humans, along with all the kingdom's food. Deor finally stepped in, determined to stop Equali from killing any more people. Their battle was brutal. brutal, but Equali devoured Deor's mother, Dawn, Dante, and countless soldiers right in front of him. Rage consumed Deor, and he lost control of his power. That triggered something inside Equali, emotion. For the first time, he felt it. Yes, Equali's purpose was finally fulfilled, to feel emotions. And once he did, he became mortal. A demon turned back into a human. All his life, Equali had pretended to be human, wondering if pretending would make him one. Now he finally understood what love felt like. Suddenly, black lumps of miasma filled the room. Deor thought it was another attack, but inside those masses were people. And here's the biggest curveball of all curveballs. Those black lumps weren't monsters. They were all the people Equali had supposedly killed and eaten. Vincent, Hess, Frey, everyone. Alive. Equali had been storing them, healing their wounds, erasing their memories. Now they woke up. Dawn's curse was gone. She could speak. Hess became kinder. Vincent's scars vanished. Camille was healthier. All thanks to Equali, the same demon we thought was cruel and evil. Everyone Equali consumed had their malice and hatred wiped clean. The weak were restored, the sick cured. Even the food he devoured had been used to sustain the humans within him. On the verge of death, Deor asked him why he did all this, and why he didn't heal people normally. Equali's last words were chilling. There are still beings pretending to be gods, creating demons in the mortal realm. He couldn't consume them all. They were more calculating, intelligent, and ruthless than him. But he warned Deor, don't hate them, and don't let them manipulate your emotions. Then those so-called gods themselves spoke. You will become stronger. Follow my guidance. Become a true king, guiding the next generations. Deor swallowed Equali whole, pledging to heal and revive him just as he had everyone else. The demons vanished. Peace returned. Deor, Equali, and Yuli disappeared, never to be heard from again. Balance was restored. Solaris became Queen of Galeus, while Dawn waited faithfully for Deor's return. One day, Dawn was reading a book. Suddenly, words appeared, a message from the blue god. It was Deor Flueni, asking for help. Dawn panicked, unsure what to do. Another book showed fuel. She thought oil might help him. But then Deor asked for a kiss. Our boy was trolling his wife hard. Dawn blushed, shy, but when he pleaded, she leaned in to kiss him. Then he teased her. I won. What a husband, huh? Deor's final words to her were simple. Wait for me. And Dawn did. She understood Deor was truly a disciple of the blue god, the symbol of the sky, all-present and all-knowing. She trusted his signs. Meanwhile, in another realm, Yuli sat with Deor. Still jealous, she couldn't understand what he saw in Dawn. She asked him what he planned to do now that he had become a god. Deor kept his promise. He healed Equali, who was reborn as a child. Looking at him, Deor spoke many things. And with that, my friends, the story came to an end. One of the best tales I've read. Author for this masterpiece.